Yo, it's your boy DZ, man. You already know it's not about the setback, it's about the get back. Hey, man, I appreciate everybody that watches the channel. I appreciate everybody that subscribed to the channel. And I hope y'all keep tuning in. All right, today we're going to talk about a few different things today. And, we're going to get started. Daniel Penny, he was found not guilty. Daniel Penny was found not guilty. And I want to know, what are your thoughts on this situation? Do you feel that the jury got it wrong? In this situation now, the person that was killed, he started ruckus on the train though. And he was threatening people on the train. And what I say to this, right? When altercations happen, there is like no limit or restriction when a person's having an altercation when to stop. These are my thoughts. I want to know what you guys think also. But when situations occur, there's not like a turn off button. And in this situation here, we can't say black, white in this situation. Because this person stepped in. Maybe he held the person too long, but he subdued the situation. Now, what if it would have went the other way and this person here would have harmed a whole bunch of people on the train? Then people would have been hoping that someone stepped in and stopped this situation. But I'm going to let y'all check this little clip out of the verdict. And I want y'all to let me know what y'all think.
It is, Bianca. We're right next to a group of pro-Jordan Neely protesters who've been here throughout the morning. They were actually part of the group that the defense had argued was disrupting the jury. What we can tell you, though, now is that Daniel Penny has been found not guilty of criminally negligent homicide. That was the second count. Remember, the first count, the jury could not come to a conclusive decision on a unanimous decision. But this one, they were unanimous, not guilty. The jury deliberating for more than 24 hours across 5 days before finally reaching this verdict. Daniel Penny found not guilty on all counts. On Friday, the judge overseeing dismissed the more severe charge of second-degree manslaughter, which carried a 15-year maximum sentence after the jury was unable to reach that unanimous verdict on that count. Now, a jury of 12 New Yorkers been locked down in that courtroom, like we said, for 5 days. It was 24 hours of deliberations trying to get to that first count. Once the judge dismissed that first count, they went to the second count, and that's when they finally got this decision where he was found not guilty of criminally negligent homicide. And that was shortly after they started deliberating this morning. They came in just after 10 a.m. this morning. They were inside for a little over an hour. There was some back and forth between the defense and the judge. When the defense came out, they came up to the judge and said, there's been protesters. And with so many windows open in the courtroom, we're told from our reporter, Michelle Ross, who's been inside, that there are so many windows open in that courtroom because of how hot it is in that building, that they could hear the protesters potentially from down in the street. The judge argued, well, there was protests on both sides. You had Jordan Neely protesters and you had Daniel Penny protesters. So both of them have been at each other. The defense was arguing that the Neely protesters were louder and the jury could potentially hear that, and that's why they would need to possibly switch rooms. That didn't get to that point because the jury found him not guilty of criminally negligent homicide. You know, at the request of prosecutors on Friday, the judge dismissed that second-degree manslaughter count. That was the big one. That carried a maximum of 15 years. This second count carried 4 years. There was no minimum in either of these counts. This directed the jury to turn to that lesser charge. What that means is now you're free to consider count two. Now, whether or not that makes any difference or not. We'll see. But what we're going to do is wait for Michelle Ross because she's coming here. Prosecutors allege that Penny killed Neely. We'll go back to what this case is. A 30-year-old homeless man who had previously been a Michael Jackson impersonator when he placed him in a 6-minute-long chokehold on a subway car last year, including for 51 seconds after his body went limp. Now, Assistant District Attorney have argued that Penny knew his actions could kill Neely, but continued to hold him in a chokehold for what they said was way too long, and they did not recognize his humanity. The medical examiner concluded that the chokehold did kill Neely. The defense arguing that Neely died from a genetic condition, they say, and that the synthetic marijuana found in his system, the jury saying they did not believe that. The defense attorney telling jurors that Penny acted to save subway passengers from a violent and desperate, that's a quote here, Neely, who was acting erratically and, quote, scared the living daylights out of everybody. But they were arguing that Neely was fighting back, and Penny continued to hold on because he feared he could break free, but he did not intend to kill Neely. We're waiting now for Michelle Ross to come out. The reporters are being forced to leave the courtroom. Right now we have a bunch of protesters who are yelling at us, pro-Neely protesters, as we report to you this afternoon, telling us to report something different than what was said inside that courtroom today. We're going to send it back to you, Bianca, just to ensure that they don't come through the barricades here.
Yeah, obviously we can tell that this is a high-stress situation.
Okay. Now, I understand, people might look at it as if it was the other way around. It would be looked at different. But we got to call this situation honestly what it is. Daniel Penny might have held this chokehold for too long. Understandable. But he stepped in when it was a time of need. He stepped in when this guy was threatening everybody on the train. And it might have been a good thing, because what if he harmed multiple people on the train? It would be a total different story right now. It's messed up that someone lost their life in this situation, but he did get a fair due process. He went to trial. He had a jury of his peers, and they said he was not guilty. If you were in the subway and somebody was threatening you and you felt uncomfortable, would you be all right with someone stepping in to help you? To help you through that time where you feared for your life and you really thought something was going to happen to you? Would you be all right with that? Sometimes you got to really look at the situation for what it is and not for what you want it to be. This person was making threats. They had people that were on the train that called 911. Do you hear me? It was people on the train that called 911 on this situation, that wanted the police to step in. But there weren't no police there at the time. Daniel Penny stepped in and subdued and held this person in a chokehold, unfortunately, until he lost his life. But what I would say to that is, I really don't feel that he was wrong. And that's just my personal opinion. People always want to jump to conclusions on what they want it to be. And we got to look at the facts in this situation. And the facts are, the man was threatening people on the train. He wouldn't calm down. The police were called. And people are closed in on a train, really scared for their life. If you was on the train, you would be appreciative for someone to step in and subdue somebody that made you feel uncomfortable or threatened in a situation where you felt that you couldn't get out of. Let's be real, man. We really got to be real on this situation.
In the New York City subway chokehold
check this
death
out,
of Jordan Neely. Let's go to our partners CBS News New York for this breaking news.
Good afternoon. I'm Jessica Moore. We interrupt programming with breaking news. A verdict is in the Daniel Penny trial. Penny has been found not guilty of criminally negligent homicide. Penny is the Marine veteran accused in the chokehold death of Jordan Neely on board a subway train last year. Over the last 8 weeks, jurors heard testimony from more than 40 witnesses, including subway passengers aboard the F train, police who responded, a Marine Corps instructor who taught Daniel Penny chokehold techniques, and Penny's relatives and friends. Penny himself did not testify during the trial. His attorneys say Penny was trying to protect other riders while Jordan Neely was making threats and acting erratically on the train. Prosecutors say Penny intended to protect riders but used too much force, gripping Neely's neck for nearly 6 minutes, which prosecutors say was past the point of him posing a threat. The chokehold death, as you remember, sparked protests last spring and debate over how the city responds to mental health emergencies. The two charges originally in this case were manslaughter in the second degree and criminally negligent homicide. You might remember on Friday, the jury came back deadlocked twice. Prosecutors then moved to drop the top charge of manslaughter. Here's a look at that verdict sheet. After dismissing the superseding charge, jurors had to decide if the prosecution proved beyond a reasonable doubt that Penny caused the death of Neely, did so with criminal negligence, and was not justified in his actions. Jurors were allowed to take Penny's character into consideration when they weighed that character against all the other evidence. The jury in this trial is anonymous, made up of 12 people from Manhattan, a diverse group, 7 women and 5 men. We want to take you live now to the courthouse in Lower Manhattan. Tim McNicholas is standing by. He was there when the verdict was read outside. Alice Gaynor is inside the courtroom. Tim, we heard reports earlier of protesters outside. What's the mood there outside the courthouse now that the verdict has been read?
You know, Jessica, just about 10 minutes ago, NYPD actually used barricades to divide 2 groups of protesters behind me. I'm not sure if you can see these officers back here, but there are 2 groups of protesters. There's a group that is supporting Daniel Penny. They had megaphones and signs in support of Penny. And there's also a group that wanted to see Penny convicted. Those people were actually chanting earlier today, and that came up in today's proceedings in the courtroom. Penny's defense team expressed concern that that group was maybe chanting so loud that the jury could hear them, and the judge actually expressed the idea that maybe he could move the jury to another room because of that. But right now there are some protesters chanting. You can hear them right now behind me. They've been out here all morning. They've been saying things such as no justice, no peace, and they want justice for Jordan Neely. Jessica.
Position. You're a little bit removed from the very front of the courthouse, as the NYPD often does with us reporters. But can you hear them still actively chanting right now, or does it seem to have died down?
You're wide.
I could hear them right now, for sure. I just heard a little bit ago, no justice, no peace, a few minutes ago. So it's definitely continuing. As you mentioned, Alice Gaynor is in the courtroom right now. She said that when that verdict was read, there was applause in the courtroom, and she also heard people asking for quiet after that applause.
McNicholas, thank you again. Daniel Penny found not guilty of criminally negligent homicide. Alice Gaynor is still inside the courtroom. She'll be joining Tim whenever she is allowed to leave. Here to further break down the verdict is legal expert Mayo Bartlett. He's a practicing attorney, former DA for Westchester County, and was also an active member of the state's hate crimes coalition. Mayo, thank you for the time. I have to get right to it. What's your reaction to this verdict? When the jury came back deadlocked on manslaughter Friday, that seemed to suggest at least one juror might have been leaning guilty. Are you surprised at all by this not guilty verdict?
Well, I think that for the reasons you stated, yes, I am, because if you're deadlocked on manslaughter, which is the more difficult charge, then it would lead you to believe that at least one or more of the jurors could be leaning toward a conviction of criminally negligent homicide. One of the issues is also that sometimes jurors are given a particular time frame for a trial, and as the case goes on, it becomes a little less likely that they will maintain their position and that they generally will go toward the position of some of the stronger advocates in the jury. That being said, these are not the easiest charges for someone to reach a unanimous verdict on. And when you look at the fact that you're going to consider the conduct of Mr. Penny, along with his history, along with his training, and the suggestion that Mr. Neely was threatening to people, that all can make it more difficult for a jury to reach a decision.
If you don't mind, for our viewers, just to sort of break it down in simple terms, the difference between those two charges, the manslaughter in the second degree versus criminally negligent homicide. We know wasn't one the maximum prison sentence 15 years. Now this one would have been 4 years had he been found guilty. So a big disparity there. But what's the difference in what prosecutors had to prove between those two charges?
Well, it's looking at the mindset of Mr. Penny. And so for the manslaughter, you would have had to have basically shown that he was reckless, that he really knew or should have known that his conduct was going to cause serious injury or, in fact, the death of Mr. Neely. For the other, it shows that he's negligent, but again, it goes beyond mere negligence for like a car accident or something in a civil arena. And you'd be looking at negligence that rose to such a level that a reasonable person would have known better than to engage in that conduct. So the question really now for a jury in particular is, did holding Mr. Neely in that chokehold for that length of time, which sounds like not a lot of time to us, 5 minutes, 6 minutes, we can debate that, even 2 or 3 minutes, but ultimately really is a long time if you actually stop your clock and listen and wait.
All right. What I want to say to this real quick is, right? Maybe he should have just protected himself. Maybe he shouldn't have worried about other people. And this is what I say when involving yourself with other people. Dealing with other people's issues can cause you a problem. He was trying to help everybody. He looked at it like, I'm trying to make sure that nothing happens to everybody, and I'm going to be the one to tame the situation. And in this world, in this society, you got to mind your business. They want you to be involved and speak out when they want you to speak out. But it could be a time that you speak out that they don't want you to speak out. They don't want you to get involved because these type of things happen. So it might be best to make sure that you're straight. Worry about yourself. Because he was just trying to make sure that nothing happened on the train that he was on. This is my opinion. And, you know, I don't get into situations like this with it black and white with this. Because I'm looking at it on the train. This person was threatening people. And we people here, like, listen, we got to stop encouraging this kind of behavior from people that want to be in public. That people that want to go out in public, we got to stop encouraging and thinking that this is acceptable to be in public settings and displaying this kind of energy, thinking that you're going to get some type of control of the room. This didn't go in his favor. It didn't go his way. And now people looking at it as if Daniel Penny was wrong. In my eyes, I don't feel he was wrong. Because if that man would have hurt somebody on the train, then their family would have been like, why didn't nobody step in? Are we paying attention to that right there? Come on, man. Seriously.
During a period of 3 or 4 minutes, whether that was unreasonable and whether that was likely to cause his death.
Right.
And that's the issue.
Okay. Speaking in a more broad sense, this case really sparked a lot of racial tension across the city. These jurors were 12 Manhattanites. They were told not to watch news coverage. We have to assume that they followed the judge's instructions, but they've lived through the aftermath. Most of them probably took the subway. How much do you think that played a role in their decision making?
I think, unfortunately, you hit a really great point that we cannot really divorce ourselves from our lived lives. And so when people are on you go on to a subway and you see what happens on a subway, it's really difficult to ask a juror to not consider any of those things. And really, you're asking them to look only at the specifics of this case. I think it's unfortunate that it becomes a racially tinged case. I think part of it was the delay in arresting Mr. Penny in the first place and the way that the police handled his interviews in the beginning. Right. And I think that sometimes it may even be done properly, but the impression that the public gets may be something other than that. And I think that I just would caution that without having all of the details, it's very difficult for us to sit in the role of a juror. So we get a chance to see what
this rate.
And that was CBS News New York covering the breaking news out of there. Daniel Penny found not guilty for criminally negligent homicide. Here's the press conference with the victim in this, Jordan Neely's family. Let's take a listen.
Responsibility to give it to them. If we see someone cold, to give them a coat. If we see someone going through something, to ask them if they're okay.
Hold up. But before I even let his family talk, and I play the video of his family talking, his family's not taking accountability that your family member was on the train in a public setting, threatening people, making people feel uncomfortable in a closed-in environment that they can't get out of. Like, listen, come on, man. Black, white, whatever y'all want to go and look at it as. This man was threatening people on the train where people take this route every single day. And we all know that New York City trains have a lot of action with violence. We know this. But they don't want to admit that your family member was threatening everybody on the train. Come on, man. People want to feel safe, and they don't feel safe riding the train, man. They don't feel safe. And this makes things worse when you have people like his family member threatening people on the train, and they got to take this route every single day. But I'm going to play this video, and I'm going to let y'all see what his family got to say. Man.
That's how we help each other, because we can't rely on the system to do it for us. And clearly, if we get to this point, it's too late. We have to be there for each other, and that's our call to action. Everybody that's pissed off at this verdict, I challenge you to go outside today and help one person. Right on. That's my challenge. If you're angry, if you're hurt, go help one person. That's how we beat the system. That's how we turn this around, by being there for each other.
I just want to say, I miss my son. My son didn't have to go through this. I didn't have to go through this either. It hurts. Really, really hurts. What are we going to do, people?
But I want to say this, right? I got to say this. You raised this child. If you didn't or you did, it came from your DNA. His actions came from your DNA. He's responsible for his actions. And what I see about people in today's time, they don't want to accept responsibility for their actions. When you want to be that type of person, you got to understand that consequences and things come with those actions. Like, seriously, it's a sad thing that he died. But his actions were what led up to his demise. Come on, man. And it's just real crazy that people only want to see things one way when the facts are right in front of you. So you want me to ignore being threatened, feeling uncomfortable because you say so? Negative. In my opinion, it was his son's fault. This is my opinion. And I'm going to be straight, honest. You know, some people might not agree. Some people might feel that I'm not calling this right. But it was ultimately his son's actions that led to this situation going the way it did. Shouldn't nobody be riding a train feeling uncomfortable because you got mental issues? You need to keep your son with mental issues in an environment where people that have those type of mental issues need to be. Shouldn't nobody else be worrying about if my life is in danger because y'all don't have this under control?
What's going to happen to us now? I had enough of this. The system is rigged. Come on, people. Let's do something about this.
Let's do something about it. Too often, we have Eric Garner's mother here. There's too often this is happening where we're left alone in this society. We got to stop that. We have to change how we impact each other. Jordan came on that subway car. The first thing he asked for was food, and he was killed. And the person who killed him was not held responsible. We cannot allow this to keep happening. Come on.
But why are they not saying anything at all about him threatening people on the train? Like, that's one thing I gotta say about black people, man. Black people, they want to hide the real reasons of certain things and only address what benefits their likeness. Come on, man. The man was threatening people and they're not addressing that. But they want to make excuses, I guess, saying that he had mental issues, why this was happening. Well, he should have been inside a mental institute. And this is my thoughts on this. If he had mental issues, he should have been inside a mental institute. He shouldn't have been riding the train. He shouldn't have been out there by himself. He shouldn't have been able to make other people that take this route daily feel uncomfortable and then expect everybody just to go with his flow. Nah, negative.
Look like the police are attacking protesters.
Good morning, everyone. Here we stand once again in front of this unjust system. I stood here 10 years ago because they did not give justice to my son with the chokehold. I fought hard to get the anti-chokehold bill passed, which did pass. But it shouldn't only be for police officers. It should be for civilians also.
Nah.
No one deserves to be choked.
I'm not agreeing with her on this. I'm telling you straight up, I'm not agreeing with her at all. I understand with the police in the chokehold, yes. But you can't tell me how I should defend myself or protect the people around me in a public setting. I'm not agreeing with her at all. This situation is totally different from the Eric Garner situation. Eric Garner was choked out by the police. This was a different scenario. And they're bringing one scenario into another scenario, trying to justify it. And I can't agree with this. Not at all.
Today. And you know, we're in that courtroom and people are cheering for the verdict. They made the loudest noise. The judge did nothing. But when his father spoke out, they put him out the courtroom. Is that justice? Or what? We can't allow this to keep going on. We have to fight this system. That's what I had to do. I had to fight to get the little justice that I got. I got one police officer fired. There's more that need to be fired. But I tell this family, do not give up. because that's what they want you to do. They want to discourage you. Just like they tried to discourage me. But 10 years later, I'm still fighting. And I'm not only fighting for myself, I'm fighting for families like yourself. That's why I have to come out when this injustice is done. If this had been the other way, if your family had murdered this so-called innocent guy now, it would have been a different story. He would have been in jail or would have never came out. But they don't do the same to us. It's two justice systems.
You know that.
And we have to stop this. And the only way that we can stop it is to stand together. Those of us who are against what happened, we have to speak up. We can't treat this just like another news story, not another press conference. We have to speak out, speak up.
Now, I do agree with her when she says there's two justice systems. I totally agree with that. I do agree with that, right? But we still have to look at the facts in this situation. It's a different situation, as in her son went through with the police and a Samaritan subduing a person and holding them in a chokehold. Those are two different situations. And he was charged and he went to trial and a jury made the decision. So this is a different situation, man.
And stand up. So I just say today, we did not get justice once again. And I am saddened. I am truly saddened by this situation because it keeps on happening and no one is standing accountable for their actions. So that means that any civilian could get on the train if they feel threatened and they could choke someone out and they're going to get found not guilty, just like today. This sets a precedent. And we can't let this happen. If the police can't do it, the civilians can't do it either. And I just want you to stand with this family. This family needs you right now.
Right on. Thank you. Thank you. I'm sorry to Dre. I'm sorry to Chris. I'm sorry that America has failed you. You've come here, you've shown discipline, you've shown strength, you've shown love, you've shown how to carry yourself with composure when you're facing this machine, this American judicial system that cannibalizes our people. But I'm gonna tell you,
man, I'm gonna stop bro right here, man. I'm stopping bro right here. Black people are killing each other every minute of the day. But we don't stand together for that. We don't stand together to stop the violence amongst each other at all. But we have all of these ideas and reasons why in these situations we need to stand together. I really want y'all to pay attention to that, man. And it's like we be lying to ourselves. For real. We lie to ourselves so much. We believe these lies. Like, they're not saying anything about this man sending the threats on the train. Nothing. Come on, man. I can't stand with it, man. I guess I'm my own type of person and I'm in my own zone and I think the way I think. But I'm not with the get along gang. I'm not with what everybody's going with, what I should do because I'm black. I'm not with that. I'm definitely not with that. In this situation right here, I feel he wasn't wrong. Like, for real. I don't feel he was wrong. Because if he would have did something to somebody and hurt somebody on his train, everybody would have been like, well, why didn't nobody step in? Come on, man. I can't agree with this one, JB.
Do this, and I'm gonna say it loud and clear. Let the marchers march, and let the steppers step. Let the marchers march, and let the steppers step. You want to do something about this verdict? Then you go into your neighborhood and you promote black unity. Black people, we are all we have. This system protects every other group except for the very people that built this country. Say it.
But in all honesty, right? We don't protect each other. Like, come on, man. We don't protect each other, man. We don't protect each other. I don't think Daniel Penny was wrong. I don't think Daniel Penny was wrong at all. Like, we don't protect each other at all. We act like we want to be unity and we want to be together only in situations like this. But when Lil Ray Ray, Lil Tom Tom run down the block and they shooting each other up, right? Nobody is saying this same type of stuff. No, it wasn't a police officer. No. It was not a police officer at all. It was a regular Samaritan. It was a white guy. He was on the train, and it was a black guy that was on the train too, and he was making threats to the whole train. He was making threats to the whole train, and the white guy came from behind him and put him in the chokehold and held him for 6 minutes, and he died. They charged him. He went to trial, and the jury found him not guilty. And before, I guess, the police and everybody came, somebody called the cops. They made a phone call, called the cops, and they said that it was a guy holding him in the chokehold, and it was a guy that was threatening everybody, and everybody felt uncomfortable. If you were on a train and it was somebody in there that was threatening you, and we're going to say it for the people that are not fighters and people that don't fight back, people that don't want no confrontation. Those people were on the train feeling uncomfortable. They were scared because this man was irate, bugging. But his family, they want to say it like he has a mental issue. Well, he should have been in a mental institute. You feel what I'm saying? He was on the train bugging, and his family is saying that he came on the train asking for food. No, the police were called because everybody on the train felt threatened because he was threatening everybody. But these are the things that black people like try to leave out in these kind of situations. They're not saying anything about him threatening. They said he came on the train and asked for food, man. We don't want to hear that. We want to hear the real of what happened. How did this get to this point? What did the victim do to get to this point? The man didn't beat on him. He just held him in the chokehold. You feel what I'm saying? So if he was threatening everybody on the train, this is what I say. The guy had the right to subdue him. This is what I say. And I say it was justified. This is what I say. You know, some people might look at it like, oh man, no, this is racially motivated. I can't look at it like that. But I stay out of people's business anyway. But he stepped up. What if this guy lashed out and hurt some people on the train? And maybe he killed some people. Then people would have been looking at it like, why didn't somebody step up in the situation? For real.
Every group that comes here gets privileges, gets benefits, except for the very people whose fingerprints are on the bricks that built this country.
But that has nothing to do with this situation.
Black people.
We understand that there's no love for black people. We understand that.
How can you make a moral appeal to a people that have no moral code? How can you preach love to racists? That got Dr. King killed. How can you promote love to a nation that is built on theft and genocide?
That's right.
What we preach is unity, black unity. Stop begging this system to justify our lives. Stop begging this system for justice. When things happen to you, you step up and defend yourself. Just like everybody else seeks justice on their own, just like everybody else has vigilantes, we need some black vigilantes.
That's right.
People want to jump up and choke us and kill us for being loud. How about we do the same when they attempt to oppress us? I'm tired. I know you're looking for us to be like, oh, go and march, go and march.
Hey, listen. The guy had a lot of bark. His bite should have been stronger than his bark. Like, seriously. If he was just saying yelling, now they saying yelling, he was threatening people. He was saying what he was going to do to people, right? His bark should have been louder than his bite. I mean, his bite should have been harder than his bark. Straight up. Come on, man. I'm not agreeing with it. I'm not agreeing with it. I'm not agreeing with this guy talking. I'm not agreeing with it at all, man. Disrespect, people threatening you. It's like black people want to put a limit on how you should respond. White people too. I'm going to say both people. I'm going to say the whole people, period. They want to put a limit on how you're supposed to respond to them when they act a certain way. Nah, there's no limit. You don't know how anybody is going to respond when you're acting a certain way. And everybody is not okay with just letting you bug out. For real. Come on, man.
No. This weekend, I want you to hold a community event everywhere from the Bronx to Houston to Seattle to Florida. Black people, whole community event, and talk about what you need. And talk about how to fix your issues. If the black politicians come, don't let them in. If they come...
Man, listen, man. People are dying every day. Ain't nobody gonna stand up across the world because somebody that you were related to or they were related to bugged out on a train and he got killed. We need to be standing up for more serious issues. Things that's going on for real. Financial things. Come on, man. They want us to stand up for what they want us to stand up when it touches their people. This is how we are, man. And this is why I can't get with them. This is why I can't agree with them. Come on, man. You said that don't give him the right to get choked out. He subdued him. He held him in position and he just held him too long. Like, the dude should have been mindful. This is where I'm at with it. He should have been mindful of where he was at, who he was around. If he couldn't handle himself in public, he should have been in an institution. Everybody's not going for that I'm crazy, that disrespect. Go sit down somewhere. This is where I'm at with it. Go sit down somewhere and get yourself together. Because he expected that people was just going to let it go, not worry about it, and let him rant. And they felt threatened on the train. You said the question is, if the role was reversed, would that black man not be in jail for killing the white man? Now, if the roles were reversed, it is a possibility that the black man would be in jail. I'm going to say that. If the roles were reversed, it is a possibility that the black man would be in jail. It is a possibility. But what I'm saying is the guy still wasn't wrong for it, though. We got to talk about the justice system on that situation. Yeah, they might have locked the black man up and made him fight. And hopefully he would have got a jury of his peers that would have been fair and seen that this guy was threatening, that he didn't intentionally kill him. He just held him. Because I don't think that was his goal, to kill him. Yes, he held him and he kept holding him. And I know for me, when it comes to situations like that, I'm just not going to just stop doing something until I feel that the situation is under control. That's just me personally, and I don't know how other people are. But yes, it would have been different if the person was black. I can say that. It would have been different. The situation would have been different. You said if it's a possibility, then it's wrong. You said if it's a possibility that he can die from being choked. You got to understand when it's beef like that, there's no limit. When altercations happen, there's not a limit on the altercation. You don't just say, all right, I'm gonna just do a little bit, and no. Altercations go to an extent. And we see it was somebody else holding his hands while he was getting choked. I just feel that the brother put himself in that situation. And this is my personal opinion. I feel that he put himself in the situation by thinking that he was going to threaten a whole bunch of people and it was going to be okay. This should be taught now. Now, that should what we should be standing up for. We should be telling our family members, yo, make sure you know how to control yourself out there. You don't know if something can happen to you by you behaving this way. And you know, when you tell people that, right, they'll turn around and say to you, oh, I'm all right. I got it. Ain't nothing gonna happen to me. Right? But you don't know if you're gonna run into that one person. You really don't know. You don't know a person's intent. Yeah, and I don't know his intent. I don't know his intent. His case went to the jury, and the jury found the man not guilty. I don't know his intent personally. But I do know when physical altercations happen in certain senses, it's like you don't have a limit on it. It's like, all right, it's not a limit to this. You said no, the possibility of the black man not getting treated fair. Of course, we understand that. The black man doesn't get treated fair in the court system. That I can agree with that to the fullest extent. I can agree with that. But I got to look at the facts in the situation. You understand what I'm saying? See, I don't ride the train, so I can't really put myself in that situation. And I'm not really for helping nobody. I'm not really, you in a situation, you getting beat up somewhere, people, I like that's their situation. So I'm not really involved in that. But you in a closed-in environment on a train that's moving, and you got somebody on the train threatening the whole train. It would have been looked at different if he would have flipped out and hurt somebody else. Everybody would have been looking at it different. People would have been more quiet about it. Oh man, the guy, he snapped out. But being as though that he was the one that got killed, it sent people into rage, as in the racial. Maybe the guy should have never helped nobody. You know, he should have just let the guy go ahead and bug and protect himself. That might have been a better thing to do. He got involved and tried to subdue him and hold him down, and he got charged.
Do not let them come and take over your fight for justice. Why? Because out of all the black politicians who said something about this initially, none of them came to court. I'm sick of these people playing with our lives, our children's lives. Black people, if you're serious about yourselves, you'll take your education serious. You will open schools in your community. You will take your health serious and teach your people about health. You will take your self-defense serious. And you will defend.
And, you know, when he says, right, that all the politicians, nobody showed up, that's because the politicians seen that he was threatening people on the train. It makes no sense. Like, honestly, it would be stupid for me to come back you up when you was threatening everybody. Come on, man. Come on, man. Like, seriously. So I'm going to come in here and back you up because you was threatening everybody and you want me to dumb it down to say that you were just being loud on the train? Nah, I can't do that. I really can't do that. But this is what black people do. Now he wants to dumb this down to say that he was just being loud on the train. No, he was threatening people. It was threats. People were scared. What if a mother would have got hurt on that train? Then everybody be like, oh. And if it was black on black, it would have been okay. It wouldn't have been like, come on, man. I ain't going for that, man. People need to know how to control themselves. Stop being disrespectful to people. When you're disrespectful, you get what comes to you. I ain't taking no disrespect. Can't stand a disrespectful joker. Straight up.
Defend yourselves and your communities. You want to take the information that's disseminated.
He was disrespectful though, JB. Big
then
time.
You can start your own media outlets. Because if America knew that Daniel Penny lied to the judges 5 times, lied to the cops 5 times, if they knew that all the people jumped off the train who were afraid within 30 seconds, and Daniel Penny choked them for 5.5 minutes, if they knew the truth, everybody would be on the side of justice except for the racists. The people who are happy that Jordan Neely is dead. Unify yourselves. We will be putting out information on how to unify yourselves, but this ain't about us. This is about justice.
Ain't nobody paying attention
so
to that.
No more Eric Garners.
Nobody paying attention to that unify shit.
So we will be a united front and a community.
Man, listen, ain't nobody unified, man. All that unity stuff is fake. Ain't nobody coming together, man. We got to stop lying to ourselves and trying to make ourselves believe shit. Ain't nobody coming together. Ain't nobody helping nobody. All this shit is for their family to feel like they're getting people together. Come on, man. Ain't nobody coming together, man. Black people killing black people every day. Everybody's trying to rob everybody every day. Everybody's doing something to somebody every day. Ain't nobody coming together, man. This is bogus, man. It's straight bogus, man. And they always want to try to tell us to come together in these situations when somebody's family is feeling like they hurt. But don't nobody come together. Ain't nobody helping nobody out, man. It's a whole bunch of fake people talking, man. Straight fake, man. This shit is fake, man. People get up here when they're having an emotional breakdown about something that might have happened in their family. Now they want everybody to come together. Why didn't y'all come together last year? Why didn't y'all come together before something like this happened? But y'all just talking. A lot of people get on these news reports and they just get to talking about coming together, but they really don't want to do no unity. Because if y'all did, y'all would have did before this happened. Eric Gardner's mom got up there talking. She been fighting for her son, and I understand that. Her situation is different because he was killed by a police officer. But in this situation, now they talking about everybody's happy that Jordan died. Nobody cared about Jordan. Like, we really got to be serious. Like, people make it like people care about something happened to somebody for real, and they don't even know this person. This didn't help my family. Like literally, we be lying to ourselves, man. Like literally, we sit here and lie to ourselves, and we allow these people to convince us to agree with them. I'm not agreeing with none of these jokers, man. Not at all. Because I knew if I was in a situation, y'all wouldn't help. But now that your family's in a situation, you want unity. And we supposed to say, all right, come on, we're coming together for you. We're going to help. We're with you. We're going to start doing this all across the world. Man, there's people going through stuff every single day. It's families dying every day. It's family that's being choked out every single day in the world. They ain't got no unity. Why we got to come for unity to make y'all feel better? Come on, man. It's too much fake stuff in the world, man. It's fake. Now they want us to come together and unify with them and feel sorry for something that their family member created. Come on, man. I can't do it. I can't find myself to feel how these people be feeling. I gotta be real. And it's a lot of fake people in the world that want to act as if they agree with these situations, if they agree with these people. When reality, if it was on the other foot and it was happening to you, ain't nobody showing up for you, man. Ain't nobody supporting you. Ain't nobody riding with you. So I can't agree with it, man.
Unity. America will never save black people. Politicians will never save black people. Only black people will save black people.
Man, black people killing black people every day, man. I ain't going for that, man. That bogus shit, man.
Shavonna Newsom, CHIVONA, NEWSOME. I'm the co-founder of Black Lives Matter Greater New York. And I'm a devout Christian. And in my Bible, thou shalt not kill. In the Torah, thou shalt not kill. In Buddhism and Hinduism, thou shalt not kill a living thing. But America has no moral code.
Man,
America has no.
Nobody want to hear this bogus shit. Like, I'm playing it just to play it, but when you listen to these people talk, it's like, it's that brainwash talk. You trying to brainwash me with some bogus shit. Come on, man. Thou shalt not kill. Man, there's niggas killing niggas every single day. Niggas is rocking niggas' head every day. Every day. I guarantee you right now as we speak, somebody is being killed. But she's saying thou shalt not kill. No, we need to get inside the communities before people inside the communities go outside the community with the BS. Come on, man. All this shit starts in the hood. Everything is starting inside the hood. The hoods are out of control. You go in some of these cities, people are being murdered at a rapid rate. That's what you people need to go do. Like, really, y'all need to go inside in the inner city, Brooklyn, all those spots, Brownsville, Queens, you know what I'm saying? Left Rack, all those type of spots where it's going down at, they need to go up in those areas and talk about thou shalt not kill. Nobody's talking about that. People only want to address certain situations that they feel that gonna make people gravitate to them. Black Lives Matter. Come on, man. All this shit be bogus in a mug. They come up with these ideas, get people involved in these certain things, and they all bogus, man. Straight up, man. That's my opinion, man. I ain't even gonna lie, man. It's just when I look at these people talk, man, it's like, stay away from me. I don't want nobody around me.
Paved the streets of this nation since its inception. It was foolish of us to think that a black man would get justice in the system designed to keep him oppressed. My heart bleeds for the Neely family. My heart bleeds for his father, who sat in front of me every single day and prayed for justice for his son.
And if you are just joining us here on CBS News 24/7, Daniel Penny found not guilty for criminally negligent homicide. That's the lesser charge in the deadly chokehold death of Jordan Neely on a New York City subway. Now, last week, the jury was deadlocked on the more serious charge of manslaughter. Let's go to CBS News legal contributor Jessica Levinson now. We were just hearing from Jordan Neely's family. Jessica, what is your reaction to this verdict?
Well, my reaction is it's interesting because, and we heard a conversation before, typically when you see a jury deadlocked on the more serious offense, and they were deadlocked on that manslaughter offense, then you know there is at least one person in the room who's comfortable convicting on manslaughter. We know, of course, they dropped the manslaughter charge, meaning the prosecution asked to dismiss it. The court agreed. And when they went back to the jury room to just consider that lesser charge of criminally negligent homicide in this case, I think it is fair to assume that some people entered the room ready to convict. So something happened pretty quickly, frankly, that turned this jury to a not guilty verdict. And again, I think we will hear from the jury eventually. They will be polled, but we know just by definition of the fact that they were deadlocked on manslaughter, one person in that room was comfortable convicting on the more serious charge, and now we think flipped to a not guilty for the lesser charge here.
And it's important to note, Jessica, there's actually another case going on, a civil trial or civil lawsuit against Jordan, from the Jordan Neely family. What can you tell us about that case?
Well, that case, it's a really important question. It's a completely separate case. I think that's the most important thing for people to know. It is a civil case. The family sued in court to try to obtain monetary damages, which is really the only remedy available in this type of civil case. So there is no jail time on the table. And we do often see this where there is a criminal case and a civil case that run essentially in parallel. The civil case, we should note, has a much lower standard in order to find liability, because we're not going to take away somebody's freedom like we would in a criminal case where you have to have a unanimous verdict, proof beyond a reasonable doubt. Instead, for a civil case, it's a much lower standard, typically of more likely than not. And so we could see a jury, and this is just hypothetical, but we could see a jury finding liability in a civil case and a separate jury finding not guilty, as we did today in a criminal case. And that doesn't necessarily mean that anything strange happened. It means these are two different types of cases.
Now, will the outcome, though, Jessica, of this criminal case impact the outcome of the civil case, do you think? Or no, they really are looked at as completely different cases?
They should be looked at different cases as different cases. Sometimes attorneys do try and bring in a verdict in a civil case. There are evidentiary issues, which we could talk about in detail with respect to introducing that. It's basically something called hearsay, but it depends on the specific type of motion, what the judge would rule with respect to that evidence. But to your question, it's a different case, same set of facts, but different allegations, different standard of proof, and obviously a different remedy.
All right, CBS News legal contributor Jessica Levinson. Thank you so much, Jessica, for that insight.
Okay. Well, from what I say, I mean, maybe, well, if it was on the other foot, it would be different in the court system. But for me, looking at the situation, I don't feel he was wrong. Maybe he should have stayed out of the business, and JB said he didn't hurt nobody. But why should we have to wait until he hurt somebody to step in? And, it's dealing with people, man. You're dealing with people, you don't know who you're dealing with, what you're dealing with, what they're going through, what's going on in their life. And, it's a crazy situation, Yeah. So, we're gonna move on and talk about the shooting suspect here. Let me see here. Shooting suspect. I'll talk about the shooting suspect. Let me see. Let's see what we got here.
Overnight, Manhattan prosecutors filing a murder charge against Luigi Mangione for last week's shooting of United Healthcare CEO Brian Thompson, gunned down in the streets of Midtown Manhattan as he was visiting for a conference. Police launching a multi-state manhunt. A senior law enforcement official confirming to NBC News that a handwritten note saying in part, "These parasites had it coming," was recovered. The 26-year-old suspect was captured Monday, recognized by an employee at a McDonald's in Altoona, Pennsylvania, 5 days after the murder and 280 miles away. Police say Mangioni's identity was not on their radar until the sighting.
We did not have his name prior to today.
Officer Tyler Fry, just 6 months on the job, responded with his partner.
He was wearing a blue medical mask. As soon as we pulled that down, or we asked him to pull it down, me and my partner and I recognized him immediately.
The arresting officers asking him if he had been in New York City recently.
He became visibly nervous, kind of shaking at that question.
According to the complaint, Mangione initially gave police a fake New Jersey driver's license, the same one police say was used to book a room at a Manhattan hostel. The charging documents also revealing when officers searched his backpack, they found a black 3D printed pistol and silencer. Mangione was born and raised in Maryland, his last known address in Hawaii. The high school valedictorian later graduated from the Ivy League school UPenn in 2020 with a master's degree in computer science. The Mangione family reacting to the news, writing they're shocked and devastated by Luigi's arrest and extending their prayers to the Thompson family. The case sparking global interest and some online backlash against the insurance industry. Pennsylvania Governor Josh Shapiro speaking out overnight.
I understand people have real frustration with our healthcare system. This killer is being hailed as a hero. Hear me on this. He is no hero. The real hero in this story is the person who called 911.
United Health Group, the parent company to United Healthcare, released a statement overnight saying that they hope this arrest provides at least some relief for family and friends. We also know that he will be in court again for his next scheduled court appearance on December 23rd.
All right, Stephanie Gosk. Steph, thank you.
Hey, all right. Now, they say people is looking at the shooter of the United Healthcare CEO as a hero. And what I want to say to that is a lot of people have been affected by the healthcare system, right? And the healthcare system is supposed to help us. It's supposed to make sure that you have healthcare in need when you're in a situation. But we all know that the healthcare system really doesn't care about the people. If you need a procedure, they can deny you. And this is your life. The money is printed. They print our money in this world. The government now. They don't care if we live or die, man. It's about making sure that money continues to generate. And in this situation, after he did this, the healthcare system wanted to do some things differently. We all see this now. We allow these companies to run on the things we need because we don't take a stand for it. And there's people that feel like this person here took a stand. And they feel like he's a hero to a certain extent, even though he took somebody's life, which isn't right. But I think some things are going to change behind the situation. This is just, my opinion. I think some things are going to change behind the situation. And y'all can let me know. I really think some things are going to change behind the healthcare system with this. Because if we take a stance as the people on certain situations, things will change. Now, we don't have to go out and harm nobody, but we got to stand together to make things change. As long as these people continue to get revenue, I want y'all to understand this, and I want y'all to understand this real clear. As long as these people to continue to get revenue and the money from the people, they're not going to change anything. Why would they change anything and they're still making the money off the situation? Your opinion and the way you feel doesn't mean anything if you don't hurt their pockets. When we want to get something done as the people, we have to stand together and not spend the money. That's the only way to get things right. These people are making millions. These companies making millions of dollars a day. The only way the world is going to get change on these certain subjects and certain issues is if they take a stand and pull back with spending the money. Every company that's out there that is big, they don't take no hit unless they get a financial hit. Your opinion, the way you feel, what you say, it doesn't matter. It matters to them when they're financially affected. And we really, really got to understand that. And if you don't understand that, that's why the things go on the way they go on. Because they don't feel no reason to change. It's not affecting their money. Straight up. Big facts.
He ignores numerous other pedestrians, approaches the victim from behind, and shoots him in the back.
The person has been taken into custody in Altoona, Pennsylvania, in connection to the CEO shooting.
We must do more on the federal level to clamp down on the availability of ghost guns.
It feels good to get a guy like that off the street.
We want to update you now on the very latest into the investigation of the man suspected of murdering the CEO of United Healthcare. 26-year-old Luigi Mangione was arrested Monday in Altoona, Pennsylvania on firearms charges. This after a McDonald's employee recognized him and called police. We now want to take you live to New York City outside of the Hilton Hotel where the shooting took place. Scripps News correspondent Kadia Tubman is there for us. Kadia, good morning to you. Tell us, please, if you would, what we know so far about this guy, about Luigi Mangione, and if there is any potential motive that's been identified by investigators.
Good morning to you, too. We are all trying to figure out right now why. What was the motive behind this fatal shooting of the CEO of United Healthcare, Brian Thompson? What we do know right now is that there are two possible indicators for a potential motive, one from police and the other from the internet. From the police who approached and found Mangione in that McDonald's in Pennsylvania, we know that that was on his person, what was found was a document, a 3-page handwritten document that police say could lead to and clarify a motive and the mindset of the suspect in this shooting. And in that document, which has not been released yet by police, a senior law enforcement official has said that the document actually listed and named United Healthcare. In the document also, it included how much the company makes and the size of the company. We also know that it condemned the health industry for prioritizing profits over people. The other possible indicator for a potential motive, we know, is that Mangione had a Goodreads account. That is a book catalog website, a social media account, as you would say. And on this account, he read books about chronic back pain, or listed that he wanted to read these books. It's not clear if he had yet confirmed if he had chronic back pain, but we know that he was reading and looking for these books. And he also reviewed a manifesto by the Unabomber. You will recall that the Unabomber is a domestic terrorist who sent bombs through the mail. And so we know that he reviewed this manifesto and even wrote in the manifesto that violence is never the solution, is only a statement uttered by cowards. So we know for sure that right now we're looking at everything on social media, but also listening to the police as they start to come out with more information as to Mangione's, the suspect's motive.
Okay, Dia, what are we hearing from the Mangione family in response to Luigi's arrest?
Well, we've already actually had a statement listed from the family on X by Nino Mangione, who is a Republican member of the Maryland House of Delegates. And Mangione said the family, in the statement, he said the family is shocked and devastated by Luigi's arrest. They also offered their thoughts and prayers to the family of Brian Thompson, the CEO of United Healthcare. And they also said that they are devastated by this news. And so we're slowly hearing from the family. What we do know about this family is that they are a wealthy family in and from Maryland, where Luigi Mangione is from, and we're slowly gathering more information about Mangione.
Katie, I want to ask you about where you are. So outside near the Hilton Hotel where this incident took place. Curious if it's business as usual, if you see anything out of the ordinary this morning. Kind of describe it for us if you would, please.
Absolutely. We're here in Midtown in Manhattan, right outside the Hilton Hotel where the shooting had taken place. This is honestly, it appears as business as usual for many folks. But I can tell you that I've seen at least 3 police cars circle the block that we are standing on, driving past slowly, just checking. Many of the passerbyers look like they're just headed to work or headed to pick up coffee or breakfast. There isn't a lot of police tape, a lot of police cars blocking the streets. Right now, it appears that a lot of folks are still cautious of what happened here last week as they are walking around, taking photos and videos. And as I said, police cars are still circulating this area. However, it appears that it is business as usual, especially here in New York.
I appreciate your reporting, Kadia Tubman, Scripps News correspondent. Thank you so much for joining us this morning. We'll speak again soon. Let's continue the conversation now. I want to bring in our guests. We have in the studio our legal analyst guest, attorney Erica Wilson, and joining us remotely, our law enforcement analyst, Claudia King. So let's dig in more about this guy. Did he want to be caught? Erica, I want to start there with you because we were having a little bit of a conversation off camera about some of these indicators that makes you wonder, was he surprised when he was taken into custody on Monday? What do you think?
I don't think so. I think everything that this guy has done has been very strategic and very methodical. So we think that, he got caught just going to the McDonald's. I don't think it's that easy. He's been leaving little Easter egg clues all around, including the messaging on the bullets, including the Monopoly money in his backpack, including his YouTube channel that said, hey, if you see this, I'm in jail. Right? And so you can't put that much effort, and I believe that YouTube channel was started back in January of this year. You cannot put this much effort into planning, and let's understand, he's a very smart guy. He went to one of the best private schools. He went to an Ivy League college. So, he has the intellect to be able to put all of these things together. So I don't believe it was just happenstance that he got caught at a random McDonald's somewhere. I think all of this was pre-planned,
I want to say this, right? We all know right from wrong, but they want to keep emphasizing that this guy was an Ivy League student. He killed somebody. That's what he did. He murdered somebody because he was upset with the healthcare system. That's what he did. We don't need to know what school he went to, where he came from. We need to focus on what happened, why it happened, what he did. But they keep talking about his accomplishments in school. Now, with this situation, if it was the other way around, they wouldn't be talking about that. My opinion.
We'll find out what the message that he's really trying to send with all of these little Easter eggs eventually if and when he ever speaks, which I think that he will. It's been too sensationalized. He's too much of a modern day hero, if you will, with that Robin-esque kind of vigilante justice for the people type of situation. Yes. So I do anticipate at some point we will probably hear something from him or get some sort of indication as to what these little clues were about, including but not limited to how you just accidentally on purpose got caught at a McDonald's.
Right. I like how you called them Easter eggs, these little hints being left behind, little clues. He left a lot of evidence for investigators to go after to identify him and then arrest him. And then that 3-page document that Kadia was just telling us about that he has on him in the McDonald's referencing United Healthcare. Claudia, tapping into your law enforcement expertise, I'm so curious. One of the biggest questions I have, and maybe some of our courties at home are with me, tweet me if you are, I'm wondering if for the sake of our analysis, just because he's innocent until proven guilty, so he's just charged at this point, but let's say for the sake of our analysis that he's the guy, he did this. Were there more kills to be done, or was his axe to grind just against United Healthcare? I think that's my question about all this. I'm curious what you think, if you think this guy was perhaps a greater danger than to just Brian Thompson, the victim shot and killed in New York.
The one reason that I don't think he was a greater danger is because he was so out in the open afterwards. So he was at the McDonald's. I feel like if there were more kills that he had planned in that moment, that he would have stayed kind of underground for longer so that he could accomplish those tasks as well. So I think perhaps this was a one and done. I think maybe we'll see that he or a family member had United Healthcare, maybe had some issues with coverage, maybe related to the back pain, and this is what drove him to do this. So it's very interesting, but I agree with Erica. He wanted to get caught. He has that manifesto on him. We've only heard bits and pieces of it. So I think there's a lot more to come, and I agree that we will hear from him on why he targeted this one individual in particular.
Yes, exactly. Great points, Claudia. Erica, tell me, when we think about the potential motive, we know it could be potentially chronic back pain. There are reports that that's what he suffered from. How do you envision this case playing out? So it's been so public. His pictures everywhere. Like you said, you theorize that he potentially wanted to be caught. I mean, do you think this is even going to be a trial? I'm curious what you think legally, tapping into that expertise that you have.
I'm still trying to figure out his motive and like all of this that he's doing and for what purpose. And so I think because it's so sensationalized, I believe that there will be a trial. He has a bigger message. I don't think it'll end here. I think it has to go to trial so he can get out that which he wanted to convey. Because again, with those little Easter eggs, and your producers put up the picture of him holding a Happy Meal, I think everything is very thought out and very strategic, and so it's going to go to trial. There will be no pleas, there will be no, anything of that nature. We're going to go to trial. He's going to have his day in court, and when the trial happens, it's going to become, it's going to be, the word circus doesn't even do it justice. It's going to be something that everybody is going to want to see, because we all want to know why, the whys, because again, you come from an affluent family. We can't presuppose that you had issues with insurance. I mean, I would guess if your parents own a literal country club, that even if insurance didn't pay, your health care would be covered. So we don't know. This is the ignominy. We had in our minds, this is somebody disgruntled because the insurance didn't pay. I don't think that that's it. This is bigger than that.
That's a really interesting point, Erica, because it seems like he may have perhaps kind of, to use the cliche, grown up with a silver spoon in his mouth. Like, the grandpa bought 2 country clubs, right? He's going to private school, he's valedictorian, Ivy League, another private school, for college. Yeah, that's a really great point. Was he struggling, or was he taking up another cause, a cause for other people? And as you noted earlier, Erica, he's being celebrated by factions of people. Another aspect of this is the ingenuity here, that they said when they had the press conference yesterday, and I think it caught some reporters off guard perhaps, that firearm we see in that video was a ghost gun. And Claudia King, I want to ask you about that. Certainly somebody who's adept at firearms, and they say he used a 3D printer perhaps to make this gun. Would you kind of take us to gun school a little bit? I had a couple questions. I was getting texts about this. People say, well, what are ghost guns and why? And it goes back to the serial numbers, right? And the lack thereof. And would you kind of take us to school about some of the difficulties officers have in tracing these guns?
Absolutely. So when we think of a traditional ghost gun, it's exactly like you said. There's no serial number, there's no tracking on it. So you have no indication of the beginning of the life of that firearm to the end of it, where it came from. But now we have a whole new problem when it comes to the 3D printers. So you can literally print anything, including a deadly weapon, at home. These printers are actually not that expensive. They're not that hard to operate. And so this is a whole new problem that law enforcement is going to have to look at and think about in these printers, because, now this kid from Penn printed this gun at home. So there was no record of it. Nobody knew about it. There's no serial number on it, as you mentioned. So this is a new problem that technology has brought to us that law enforcement is going to have to now address.
Really great insight, Claudia. Thank you for that. You and Eric are standing by with us this hour. We're going to switch back to the trial that we're covering. Thank you for this discussion. And as we get more information on Luigi Mangione in this case and the shooting death of Brian Thompson, of course, we will bring it to you live here on Court TV.
Yeah. So I don't know, man. Is this the right guy, man? I don't know, man. Like, sometimes they mislead us. Sometimes they tell us the truth. Is this the guy, man? And they said they caught him in Altoona, Pennsylvania. He came from a good family. Family took care of him. And this is why I say you really don't know who someone can grow up to be. You really don't know who someone can grow up to be. Honestly. And we're going to see here. Yeah. But we're going to go through some of this stuff here. Hold up. Yeah. You really don't know. Yeah, you really don't know. Let's see. Let's see what the friend describes him. Because he had a friend that described him. Let's see what the friend said.
Background. What have you learned about him?
Yeah, Aaron, this was no career criminal. As we've been learning from law enforcement, there were no prior arrests of him. They really weren't on, he wasn't really on their radar. And for what we've learned is that Mangione really went to some of the best schools in this country, comes from a prominent family in Maryland. As far as those schools, we know he graduated in 2016 from Gilman High School, which is an all-boys school. He was valedictorian of his class, where he gave his speech at his graduation. Then he went on to University of Pennsylvania, where he also graduated with a bachelor's and master's degree, computer science, as well as mathematics. Extremely smart, told his newspaper there that he wanted to learn how to code because he wanted to make his own video games. Extremely smart individual. As far as the family is concerned, we know that his grandfather was a real estate mogul in that area in Maryland, and that his family owns a bunch of nursing homes. They also own a bunch of country clubs. So really interesting pieces making up the framework of who Luigi Mangione is. We also have found a Goodreads account where he talks about the Unabomber, Ted Kaczynski, and essentially says that he's a political revolutionary, and this is all being scrubbed right now as we speak. His social media accounts, as again, investigators are still trying to figure out a motive in this case. Aaron?
All right, Bryn, thank you very much. And out front now, RJ Martin, the owner of Surfbake H&L, Honolulu, a co-working and living space in Hawaii where Luigi Mangione lived around 2022. So, RJ, I mean, you and I are speaking here in a conversation that hours ago you never in your life would have thought you would be having. Were you shocked when you learned that your friend was the suspected killer?
Beyond shocked. It's unimaginable. You know, I was roommates with him, friends, hiked, went to yoga. He was, did his best to be athletic, and unfathomable knowing the kind, person that I saw and knew.
So when did you meet him?
Well, actually, we have an interview process because when you throw a bunch of people living together, you need to hopefully make sure they work well. And I interviewed him before he moved in. He works in tech. He has a remote position. He was looking forward to living in Hawaii and being healthy. He was excited about getting new people, experiencing new culture.
And did he, all right, so I know this was back in around 2022, so you're coming out of COVID. I'm curious, RJ, did you know where he was working remotely or why he had suddenly decided to decamp to Honolulu? Was there sort of any break in his life or anything that you ever became aware of?
No, it's very natural. Our members all have remote jobs, and Hawaii is one of those places that many people would love to live. So we provide kind of an all-inclusive living experience, so it makes it easy for them to move to the islands.
Okay, so I know you considered him from your interactions with him, the time you spent together, as someone who would be a lifelong friend. What was he like when you knew him? And I know you've shared some pictures with us as well. I mean, in terms of how social he was and the sort of interactions that he would have had with the other people in your co-living community.
He was a very thoughtful person, communicated really well, was friendly, had good relationships with everyone. He was even, in some ways, a bit of a leader. He helped spearhead a book club that we started just so we could, keep those intellectual pursuits alive from back when we were in school.
So you mentioned that he was into health. How did that manifest himself? And you mentioned you went hiking together, things like that. Can you tell us more about that? Why he cared about health? And I understand also that at one point you did become aware of some issues with his back.
Yeah, so when I first interviewed him before he moved in, I remember he said he had a back issue and he was hoping to get stronger in Hawaii. So he's always focused on trying. When he first came, he went on a surf lesson with other members, and unfortunately, just a basic surf lesson, he was in bed for about a week. We had to get a different bed for him that was more firm, and I know it was really traumatic and difficult. When you're in your early 20s and you can't, do some basic things, it can be really, really difficult.
Did he have any conversations with you then or even afterwards about that issue and, his back, how he hurt it? Obviously anything to do with the insurance process of it?
The only thing he ever mentioned, he mentioned, I need to go back to see my doctor and then I'm going to have surgery. I encouraged him and brought him to yoga classes. He would do calisthenics on his own. I know he was really focused on being strong and healthy, but it also weighed on him that he knew that there was an impending surgery. So did you, in the context of all the books that you were reading and the book club that he was leading, did you have conversations about any of the issues that, we now even see in the writings that he had on him when he was arrested? Did he talk about, not even maybe as specific as health insurance, but capitalism, anything of that nature? I apologize. I haven't read any of the media that's happened. I heard about it when a reporter called me. So I'm not familiar with what his writings were, but I know we talked about social issues and we talked about how to improve the world. And we talked about, issues that are, say with capitalism or with the healthcare system or with housing or the food systems. It wasn't, anything specific. It wasn't like he had an axe to grind or he was even upset or angry about a particular issue. They were just natural intellectual conversations that you have when you're inquisitive.
So you stayed in touch with him. I know you spoke to him earlier this year, although I understand, RJ, that you tried to reach out to him multiple times even since then, but that he had not responded in those cases. Can you tell me about your last conversation with him?
Mostly just text messages. So I knew he was going to have a surgery. So earlier this year, I checked in with him. He confirmed that he had surgery and he sent me the x-rays. It looked heinous with just giant screws going into his spine. After that, he called me once. I didn't pick up. We kind of texted a little bit, but we, unfortunately, I feel terrible now. I wish, I would have made more of an effort to communicate with him.
Did you ever have any conversation with him where he brought up anything like guns or anything in that area?
Never once talked about guns, never once talked about violence. He was absolutely a not violent person, as far as I could tell. Yeah. So
RJ, in all of this, as you're just struggling to get your head around what happened here with someone, that you had considered would be a lifelong friend, and I know you've only had a few hours to even try to comprehend it, but just in these initial hours, do you have any idea why or how someone that you knew in the way you knew him could have done this?
Personally, I can make zero sense of it. There's never justification for violence. We live in a democratic system with processes and procedures to address, our issues, and I can make no sense of it.
Well, RJ, I appreciate your taking the time to share all this with us. I know you're in shock about what happened, so thank you for taking the time and trying to help everyone understand a little bit more here about this, what happened. Thanks.
Is this the real person? Do they have the right suspect? Ah, man. They tell us what they want to tell us, but do they have the right suspect?
That she spotted him after that. Executive Brian Thompson. Police arrested 26-year-old Luigi Mangione in Altoona, Pennsylvania, Monday, when a McDonald's customer told an employee that she spotted him after that 5-day nationwide search. The employee called the police, who came. They found Mangione with a black ghost gun, which can be assembled from parts and is untraceable. That's similar to one used in the killing of Thompson. While many offered condolences to Thompson's loved ones, his killing sparked outrage over the state of health care in America. Some turned to social media to share their experiences with health insurance companies.
United Healthcare denials of coverage. Interesting that one of the shell casings had the word deny written on it. And it made me think of the time they tried to deny coverage for my mother's dialysis. Yes, you heard that correctly. United Healthcare tried to deny coverage for dialysis.
For more, we're joined by two guests. In Washington, D.C., Derek Crow is with the nonprofit People's Action Institute, which has a care over cost campaign focused on the health insurance companies' quote, systemic practice of refusing to approve care through prior authorization denials or pay for care through claim denials. And in Philadelphia, we're joined by Wendell Potter, former executive for the health insurance companies Cigna and Humana. He's the executive editor of Healthcare Uncovered. Wendell is the author of Deadly Spin, an insurance company insider speaks out on how corporate PR is killing healthcare and deceiving Americans, and also the book Nation on the Take, How Big Money Corrupts Our Democracy and What We Can Do About It. We welcome you both to Democracy Now! Wendell, let's begin with you. When you heard that the CEO of United Health was murdered on the streets of New York, that the assassin had written the words deny, depose, defend on the bullets, that there was this outpouring of anger about healthcare companies, while at the same time many, of course, expressed condolences to the family of Brian Thompson. Your thoughts?
It was chilling, but not shocking to me. I used to plan the kind of events that Brian Thompson was in New York for, the company's Investor Day, and I want to stress that because it's significant that that's why he was in New York, to attend probably the most important meeting in the company's year, which is meeting with its top institutional investors and Wall Street financial analysts who write reports that help determine the fate of these companies on Wall Street. That's what these companies, that's where they worship. They worship at the altar of Wall Street. And I think what we're seeing here is this young man, if this is the suspect who's been arrested, is the assailant, experienced some kind of delay apparently, or some kind of interaction that did not go well with his insurance company and with the industry. This has been going on for a long time. This company in particular has a record of using prior authorization or refusing to pay for needed care far more than its competitors. But for-profit insurers in general have used this as a means of enriching their shareholders, of using fewer and fewer of our premium dollars to pay for the care that we need so that more money can be made available to their shareholders.
Yeah, I wanted to ask Wendell Potter, there are about an average of 75 homicides per day in the United States. And I was stunned by the level of media attention and law enforcement resources utilized to track down this one killer of a wealthy businessman and health executive. I'm wondering your sense of where our system places its resources.
You know, it's a very good point. So many resources were put on this, obviously for one reason, because it became such a big media story, and the drama around this made it certainly a compelling story. But we're talking about a person of privilege and great wealth who was killed, and that triggered this this manhunt that I think we, as you said, there homicides every day in this country, sadly, but you don't have this kind of reaction. But I think part of what's going on here, back to the rage that we've seen on social media, it's just been barely below the surface, and this triggered something. I'm equating this to kind of a dike bursting. I saw this rage, this outrage, if you will, toward this industry when I worked for it, and it was one of the reasons why I left. I couldn't, in good conscience, continue to support an industry that used prior authorization, that established themselves firmly between a patient and his or her doctor. That's what these companies have done, and I think that what we're seeing, sadly, in some form or fashion probably was inevitable, because more and more people are facing these denials of care or denials of claims. So people are winding up deep in debt. 100 million Americans have medical debt, but most of those people have health insurance, but they can't get their insurance companies to cover the care that they need. They have to spend so much money out of their own pockets before their coverage will even kick in. So it is a crisis that was brewing and I think has erupted. And I think the challenge is going to be, what do we make of this? How do we harness this rage? When I say we, I'm talking about advocates and those who know that this system needs a fundamental overhaul like we've never seen before. How do we harness this and channel it in constructive ways to push reforms forward?
I wanted to go back to the healthcare point, but I also wanted to amplify the issue that Juan just raised. New York City Mayor Eric Adams was speaking during the news conference Monday about the arrest of Mangione when he was asked about another case here in New York.
I wanted to ask you about the killing of a migrant teenager last week in the financial district. A group of men attacked him and another migrant after reportedly asking him whether he spoke English or not. What updates do you have in that case, and do you have images of the suspects in that case? And if so, why haven't those been publicized, as we saw in this other case? And has the same amount of police resources been spent on his death as the CEO's death?
First and foremost, the fact pattern that you just described about asking, did he speak English, that was not in any of the reports. Any loss is a huge loss.
Ready. That is Mayor Adams, and they were talking about the killing of the migrant just a day after Jeremy Colina, who is 17 years old. A group came upon him, and a friend said, "Do you speak English?" When they said no, he was killed. The other was critically wounded. And this question of whether they got video and photos of the gang that moved on. But we're going to stick right now on the healthcare issue. Derek Crow is with us of People's Action Institute. Derek, you've been collecting testimony. Your group was involved with a mass arrest. I want to turn to the Color Lines video report that features 29-year-old Carly Morton of Beaver, Pennsylvania, who is supported by People's Action's Care Over Cost campaign.
I have been fighting my medical issues in my insurance company.
Videos like these, a whole group of people affiliated with People's Action Institute were just recently arrested outside the offices of the Minneapolis headquarters of United Health. Explain.
Right. Well, first, let me say that we also offer our condolences to the family and friends of Brian Thompson. We obviously condemn any act of gun violence, no matter the motivation. We were shocked by that crime. We were not shocked by the outpouring of rage you mentioned. And I just want to say the thing that took us to that location and that led us to that action were stories just like Carly's. These corporations have too much power in this country. They are blocking progress on issues like gun violence and on the epidemic of care denials in this country, either through prior authorizations or through claims denials. Just like Carly, 248 million care denials are issued by these companies every year, either through a prior authorization denial or a care denial. And people's anxiety.
Hold up. Did y'all just hear that? 240 million people are denied each year. And the government prints the money, man. They don't care about human life at all. It's impossible to.
And stress and anger about that has just built up to a boiling point. Carly's case, she finally got paid her claim for that surgery only because she worked with us and gathered around with other people who organized in a strategic, nonviolent way to put pressure on these companies. Her condition is terribly painful. It's called NMALS. Its pain when she eats is equivalent, her doctors say, to end-stage pancreatic cancer. And this corporation was refusing to give her the care that she needed, that she had been paying premiums for. And we had to literally take her pain to their front door to get their attention. Now, we were happy to do that. We want to do that for everybody that joins us at careovercost.org, but we can't do that 248 million times a year. Something's got to change.
Derek Crow, we only have about 30 seconds, but I wanted to ask you quickly, Medicare Advantage, which Brian Thompson ran for United Healthcare, the privatization of Social Security. We're seeing all these ads about open enrollment the past few weeks. What are you urging in terms of the government's use of this privatization of Medicare?
Well, we must stop the government from turning over Medicare to companies like United Healthcare through privatization schemes like Medicare Advantage. And we've also got to get policymakers to take the claims review process, the appeals process, out of the hands of corporations like this and get our healthcare focused on people's needs and not corporate profit.
Well, we'll leave it there for now, but of course, we'll continue to cover this issue. We're going
I can't come to wrap my head around why the government doesn't have total control over the healthcare. Why do other private companies have control over the healthcare when this is an issue to save our life to live? They don't care about human life, man. And it's messed up. Because people need certain surgeries at certain times, and for them to deny after these people been paying these premiums. And when they deny you, it's nothing you can do. They don't want to talk to you. They don't want to reason with you. You just been denied. And like he said, in that situation, they had to bring the situation to the front door for them to address it. And it's not fair. We all know it's not fair. Not at all. I see. Yeah, it's not fair. They allow these systems to have that kind of control. Ah, man. It's messed up. But soon as Luigi did what he did, the healthcare system wants to make changes. It's not fair. That's not right for things to have to go that far for them to want to make change for us. It's not right, man. How y'all feel about that? I'm sure it's people that's enraged that's on this live right now that feel the same way. Okay, they said he's awaiting extradition. Alright, we're gonna play this one right here. He said he's awaiting extradition. So we're gonna check this one out, you hear me?
Welcome back to CBS News 24/7. I'm Reed Cowan. So after charged with the murder of United Healthcare CEO Brian Thompson. We've got new police body camera showing the moments authorities confronted him in that McDonald's in Altoona, Pennsylvania. One with a mask on, then he's told, take your mask off. He did. He was asked in that moment if he was recently in New York City. Police say with asking that question, he began to shake. New video to our monitors shows Mangione making a very fast entry headed towards a courthouse. He will now face extradition hearings to come to New York to face charges. So let's talk about the evidence that New York authorities will use to build their case against him. A ghost gun fake IDs, a U.S. passport, and a 3-page written document expressing ill will toward corporate America. So let's go live to Anna Schechter, CBS News senior coordinating producer with the Crime and Public Safety Unit. Anna, they got him. In about 30 minutes, we understand his extradition hearing begins. What can we expect to happen in that extradition hearing?
Well, hey, Reed, we do expect him to be present there in court in Pennsylvania. No cameras in court, so we all won't see him, but he will be there. And a couple things could happen. He could fight extradition to New York. That will kind of delay things a little bit. And if he doesn't, then things could move very, very quickly where the U.S. Marshals get involved and there's an arrangement for transportation to him. Remember, New York prosecutors have already filed their charges, murder charges, and so that is already in the works. So right now at 1:30, we expect to hear how long that's going to take. It could be a matter of hours, or it could be many days, like up to a month or so. So let's see what happens. If he does fight it, one path would be Governor Kathy Hochul of New York would go to Governor Josh Shapiro of Pennsylvania with a formal request for extradition. So that could also speed things up. Of course, all eyes are on this case, and everybody wants to move this forward. Reed?
Right, that extradition hearing about to start in about 28 minutes. So let's talk about the evidence that New York prosecutors will use against him, most specifically that 3-page document. We understand it was handwritten in his own voice. How will they use that against him?
Well, in that document, police say that he attempted to justify his actions. He was railing against corporations and executives who rake in profits, all while the American public doesn't benefit. He actually explicitly said that the U.S. ranks 42nd in life expectancy around the world. So that was a point that he brought up. Police also are homing in on his positive review of Unabomber Ted Kaczynski's book online. They found that. We also found that yesterday. An immediate Google search pulled it up for us. But in police documents, they point to that as speaking to motive. So right now, police and the Manhattan District Attorney's Office, they are building their case as we are sitting here today, including all of that evidence, the clothing that was worn by the shooter that he had on his person, the ghost gun, the silencer. We still haven't nailed down whether that gun is actually the one that he used, but it does fire 9mm rounds, and he had 9mm rounds on him when he was apprehended at the McDonald's. And guess what? The bullets and shell casings found at the crime scene, 9mm. So there is a lot of evidence. Also, he had the same fake New Jersey driver's license. He presented that to the police who apprehended him, and that's the same fake license that he used to check into the hostel in New York City on the Upper West Side before he allegedly committed the crime. Reed?
And let's talk about that ghost gun. We know that he had some deep understanding of tech. Any chance that that ghost gun was made by a 3D printer? Because that could speak to a whole other conversation in our country.
Well, police, our sources say that the gun was 3D printed, as was the silencer. Both were printed on 3D printers. That's in the initial police report from the Altoona Police Department. The question is, did he do that himself? We know he graduated from an Ivy League school, Penn, in 4 years with not just a bachelor's but a master's in engineering. He also taught at Stanford, so he certainly was tech savvy. But it's interesting. One of the lines of questioning in the investigative process on motive, police have noted this anti-tech mentality that he might have shared with the Unabomber.
All right. Thank you so much. It's always fascinating to check in because we know you have the very latest information, Anna. We appreciate the call.
Now, I think some things are going to change behind this. He might have sacrificed himself, but I think some things are going to change behind this. Honestly. Yeah.
The fact that a Good Samaritan, the employee at the McDonald's, helped break the case really highlights the importance of crowdsourcing, crime solving, something that didn't happen decades ago, putting all that video out, all those pictures.
Yeah, absolutely. Once we disseminated the images of the suspect, we're relying on the public to identify him. And I can't tell you how many times when I was in the detective squad that we have a Crime Stoppers tip, we check it out, and it turns out not to be the suspect, not in this case. Good job by the civilian that identified him, reported to 911. Great job by the police officer that made the apprehension. So it was a coordinated effort by everybody to make a successful arrest of this suspect.
And Joyce Vance, let's talk. This young man is from a very wealthy family, a privileged background, highly educated. So it seems so extraordinary that he has these, anti-establishment views, terrorist views, really, at least according to his own writings. Do you think that there's going to be a mental health defense here?
Well, it will be an interesting prosecution, Andrea. You know, sometimes you have people who don't want a defense. They have a point of view to push. They have a manifesto. We know that this defendant does, in fact, have a manifesto and appears to have an axe to grind. It's important, by the way, to caution that this early in an investigation, there can be information that appears to be accurate that surfaces that ultimately law enforcement has to set aside because it's not accurate. There will be issues about what evidence is admissible at trial. But while there could ultimately be lawyers who intervene in some sort of an insanity or mental health defense, this could also be a defendant who wants to go to trial to bring attention to his point of view. That's something that happens rarely, but he does seem to fit that profile.
And there seemed to be so much public sympathy for him. I know it's anecdotal because we're only seeing the people who want to express themselves, but I was surprised by the vitriol expressed against the health industry. We all have our experiences in anger and frustration at times when you're left on hold for hours by insurance companies. But to find people, saluting and cheering on the murderer in those days when he was on the loose, how hard is it going to be to find a jury?
You know, lawyers put this issue, we call it jury nullification. And the issue involves whether jurors will make a decision to acquit, or maybe one juror will make a decision to vote against convicting, not because they believe the defendant isn't guilty, but because they're willing to give that defendant a pass. That's a really dangerous sort of a proposition, to have jurors redeciding or relitigating the issue of what the law should be. And that's a real risk and a reason that prosecutors will tell you it's so critical for people to face accountability under the law. We don't want these individualized decisions. We want to have a system of law that applies equally to everyone. And of course, when you look at a situation like this and you say, well, this is a policy difference that he had with the man he murdered, that's clearly the sort of situation where we can't say it's okay to murder someone. I have as much empathy as anyone else does for disagreement with the insurance system. I've got a kid who was born with a genetic defect. I've spent a ridiculous amount of time fighting with insurance companies. That doesn't mean that you pick up a gun and resolve your differences that way. It might mean that you have to take the more difficult path that so many activists take to policy resolution. That's what prosecutors will have to express to a jury and convince them of.
And do we know yet, just briefly, whether or not he has a public defender? He's from a wealthy family, but he's separated from his family. They're estranged.
He'll have to make a needs assessment with the court to determine whether or not he's entitled to a defender. But typically, the standard for that is low, and if you certify that you can't afford to pay for your own counsel, you're constitutionally entitled to have someone represent you.
Michael Alcazar, I was really intrigued by the fact that his picture, even that 4-second shot, was out there for so many days. He's from a prominent family. Nobody from his classmates, not his family, his fraternity, nobody came forward and said, that looks like, that looks like our Michael. Isn't that strange? I also want to ask you about the ghost gun and if that makes it harder to link it to the crime, or it could be a second gun, right? It might not be the one that was used in the crime.
Yeah, it was surprising that the police commissioner said that they had no information, linking this gentleman, this perpetrator, to the crime other than the 911 call. I'm confident that they had thousands of Crime Stopper tips, but they perhaps didn't have the opportunity to vet them. I mean, the mayor alluded that they had his name, and it was just contradicted by the chief of detectives and the police commissioner. So it gives me a little bit of concern what happened there. As far as the ghost gun, yeah, he could have just purchased this online. He's an engineering graduate. He could have made it himself. So there is we have to try to link the weapon to the ammunition, the bullets that we recovered on the scene. Typically, most guns have rifling on the barrel, and we'd like to do a ballistic testing on it to see if the bullets did, in fact, come from that weapon. And if that's not the weapon, then we still have other ways to link him to the scene. We have perhaps his DNA or fingerprints on the water bottle, on the cell phone, and other evidence they recovered on the scene.
Yeah. It's going to be, tough for them to find a jury in this situation, honestly, because you don't know who is dealing with these same type of issues with the healthcare system. And if he gets jury members that are experiencing these same type of things with the healthcare system, they might say he's not guilty. So I think definitely he's going to go to trial because he's going to be trying to make a stance on what he was saying about the healthcare system. And unfortunately, he has people supporting it. These people wouldn't commit this violence themselves, but they supported that someone else went on a limb and risked their life for the situation. It's 240 million people denied each year. You better know it's a lot of people that support what he did. And it's wrong that he did it, but it's a lot of people that support it. Because people are dealing with these issues with the healthcare system right now. Yeah. People are dealing with these issues as we speak. So, yeah. But we're going to play some more of this right here.
Being held there in Altoona this morning. What more are we learning about his arrest and the evidence police there found when they took him into custody?
Yeah, Anna, 5 days after investigators used drones and canines and scuba divers trying to find evidence to find the suspect, it all came down to good old-fashioned see something, say something. And that's what happened at the McDonald's in Altoona when a patron saw somebody suspicious in the corner of the restaurant, notified an employee that worked there. That employee then recognized him from the photos that have been circulating and called law enforcement. The NYPD said this morning that that particular man, Luigi, was not even on the law enforcement's radar until that phone call happened. Now, according to court documents, when Altoona police showed up and started questioning him about whether he'd been to New York recently, he started shaking and getting visibly agitated. Our team spoke this morning with somebody who was at the McDonald's when this all went down. Here's what he had to say.
The guy came in the door, and I didn't really look at him. I thought everyone was kidding around. The one guy said, "That looks like the shooter from New York." And, oh my God, they arrested this guy at McDonald's. So then I came back, And I said to the one worker, I said, was that here? And they said, yeah. And I said, was I here? They said, yeah, you were sitting over there.
Now, investigators found several things in Luigi Mangione's backpack that will no doubt lead to discussions of possible motive as we get to that point. He had $8,000 in cash, including foreign currency. He had 3 pages of writings, general distaste of the healthcare industry, quotes that included, quote, frankly, these parasites had it coming, and, quote, I do apologize for any strife or traumas, but it had to be done. He also stated that he acted alone. He also had a weapon on him, but it's unclear if that's the same weapon that was used in the murder of the healthcare CEO. The suspect, as you mentioned, is now sitting in maximum security in a state penitentiary about a half an hour outside of Altoona. Anna?
Gary Grumbach, thank you for that reporting. So, Catherine, talk to us about the process now of getting him from Pennsylvania to New York to face this murder charge.
The process actually isn't very cumbersome. Assuming that he doesn't agree to come back on his own, which often they don't, then the Manhattan DA's office will file what's called a governor's warrant. We'll seek a governor's warrant. So Governor Hochul, the governor of New York, will ask the governor of Pennsylvania, Shapiro, to send him back. And the process has already started. As soon as they filed the criminal court complaint, arrest warrant, charging murder in the second degree, that allows them to prepare the paperwork for both states to sign off on and bring him back. It also gives them enough time to get the case together to present to the grand jury. So in many ways, it's a gift that they have this little bit of time now.
We're talking more about the evidence. Of course, Gary talked about these writings. We've learned a little bit about the gun that police say was a ghost gun. We also have understood they recovered multiple fake IDs, including one with the name Mark Rosario, which happened to be the same name or same potentially ID that he used when he checked into the hostel here in New York City. Clint, how strong is this evidence, and what does it tell you about potential planning that went into all of this?
You know, what's very strange about this is the remarkable amount of planning that this individual put into this shooting, and then up to a point, it just stopped. That he still had the weapon on him, that he still had the fake ID on him. This all essentially ties him right back to the crime scene. If that physical evidence wasn't there, it would really change it. The other part is he's not trying to evade, his connection to it. He has a manifesto there. He talks very specifically about his plot. So kind of a strange twist is he did all these things to hide his actions up to the event of it and even to do the egress. Then at a certain point, he just stopped. And now all that evidence ties him back to the shooting.
And Catherine, we're learning more about the background of Luigi Mangione. We found out he graduated from an all-male high school in Baltimore. It was the Gilman School. He graduated with multiple degrees from the University of Pennsylvania. What are police and prosecutors doing right now as far as digging into that background and building their case?
They're going through every part of his life. So the DAs, the investigative analysts, the investigators, the detectives, his social media presence, and apparently has. They recovered devices from a laptop and other devices. They're getting search warrants to go into those devices and any information he has on the cloud. Now that he's been identified, they're going to trace all of his steps before he allegedly committed this shooting and talk to anyone who saw him, his movements, everything. So he appears not to be, the blue-collar dad with a sick child. He appears to be a wealthy, privileged young man. So I sense, he hasn't have an attorney yet here, that there'll be some type of mental health defense because it makes no sense.
Our Tom Winters also here with us. Tom, you've been reporting on this story since it broke last week, and I know you've been looking into some of his digital footprint as part of the evidence that police have collected, including some writings on a website called Goodreads, book reviews, where he reportedly reviewed the Ted Kaczynski Unabomber manifesto. What did that say?
Well, that's exactly right. So there's a whole host of things that investigators right now that they have time, right? So the focus the last 5-6 days has been on who is this person? Can we get them? Well, that's now solved, and this individual's been charged. So they have the advantage to go back and say, okay, now that we know who it is, what's their online footprint? And exactly to your point, they've got all sorts of information that he has posted online before, or it is sometimes even more helpful. What are their accounts? What are the things that they're reading? And what are they opining on? And in this particular instance, he's talking about the Unabomber and his thoughts on the Unabomber. So that's one of the things that they're looking into as they try to make sure, is this in fact his account? And then what does this mean? Does it help us with motive, or does it help us understand? And could we be looking at other people in the future that want to do what he wants to do? And one of those things that they've been looking at also is a photo of a spine that has screws in it. And so is that his spine? Was that somebody else's spine? Is that another type of thing that could have helped fuel this? So I think when we look at this, it's going to take a while to sort through all of that. That work we know is ongoing, and we're reporting that. So we're just going to have to see, I think, in the coming couple of days where this all goes. One of the downsides of him being in the New York court system is that they typically don't put a lot of that information in their charging documents. So that's going to be a bit of a challenge for us. Normally, if this was in the federal system, even in Pennsylvania, we might get a lot more information as far as what they were uncovering as it pertains to motive, should they want to introduce that in the charges in New York State. Unfortunately, just the way that the law is, has nothing to do with the Manhattan District Attorney's Office. It's going to be a challenge.
And Clint, the New York Times actually has some additional reporting on this spinal X-ray that's been circulating online, or at least related potentially to that. And here's what they report out. Mangione was in regular contact with friends and family until about 6 months ago, when he suddenly and inexplicably stopped communicating with them. He had been suffering from a painful back injury, friends said, and then went dark. A friend told the New York Times that his spine was kind of misaligned, and quote, he said his lower vertebrae were almost like a half-inch off, and I think it pinched a nerve, end quote. How significant is this?
I think it's quite significant for two reasons. One, it may point to motive and why United Health, why this direction. Even if you look at the other evidence that might be out there in the open source, nothing really points to healthcare. So that's one dimension of it that might be looked at. The other is the dimension that Catherine was talking about, which is what was his mental health status? If he's in persistent pain, would that contribute to this, or maybe put him in a different psychological state?
And I also just have to come back to the fact that he'd been on the run for days, and it seemed like it was unclear which state even he was in. We know there were authorities in Georgia where we thought he may have, boarded a bus, because that's where a ticket had originated, to New York City. They ultimately tracked him down at this McDonald's in Pennsylvania. Catherine, your thoughts on just how he was eventually caught?
Well, it was by chance, because really they didn't track him down. He was having, food at McDonald's, and someone there, because of the photo that was spread all over nationwide TV and social media, saw him. So that's how they got very fortunate, because, as they say, someone saw something and said something, and that's why they got very lucky. And also, he clearly was not hiding. He wasn't going back to Hawaii. He was walking around. The reason why we have a clear photo of him is because he pulled down his mask, and that's why we were able to get a clear photo of him when he was at the hospital.
And Gary reported out, Tom, about the gun that was found on him when they arrested him in Pennsylvania. Authorities talked about a ghost gun, potential 3D printer involved. What more are we learning about the murder weapon?
Right. So when we say a ghost gun, we mean a gun that is not manufactured by a company that is registered with the federal government. So in other words, it doesn't have a serial number. It's not from a licensed firearms manufacturer. It's a ghost because it doesn't exist in the federal system. So they can be made a number of different ways. Sometimes people buy a number of parts for guns and assemble them. In other instances, we see people use 3D printers, and that there have been some diagrams in the past and some things online about how to make these. One, they're notoriously unreliable, which might explain the reason why the gun jammed in the course of if this alleged homicide that he's committed. So that's the first thing. Second thing is, did he make it himself? If he didn't make it himself, did somebody else make it? In which case, that person could also be on the hook for charges as well. So that's something, a question today that we're going to be closely tracking, but not specific to this crime. This is an issue that law enforcement has been very concerned about for the last several years, the proliferation of these type of weapons and how difficult it makes it, and the fact that, it's difficult to trace where these are coming from and how many of them there are, and the fact that somebody could not have to go to a store and buy this gun. Right. They would have had a hard time if they had a name to be able to run that name and say, oh, did he ever purchase a weapon? Because then that might help them solve this crime. So in other words, if they had a name before this person called it in from McDonald's, they would have checked that name, said, oh, in fact, they did purchase a gun. Hey, they purchased almost the exact gun that we see on that camera. That would have really helped them out. But in this case, it wouldn't have helped them out because this gun is not registered at all. So I just wanted to explain why that, and kind of underscore why that's a problem in this particular case.
Okay. Well, we're going to see more evidence come out as the days go on. And somebody called in, so let me see. Hold on. How much was the reward? How much was the reward? That's what I'm trying to find out. How much was that? They said 50,000. So the person that called in, I wonder if they're gonna play with them, making sure that they get that 50,000. Because you already know they'll tell you, they'll give you some money if you, especially 50,000, right? We'll give you 50,000 and then it'd be hard to get the money. So we're gonna see how that one goes. We're gonna see how that one goes. Yes, we are going to see how that one goes. Yeah, Jay-Z is fighting back. Jay-Z is fighting back. He has demanded that the identity be revealed of the alleged victim, as it should be. So we're going to see if the identity is revealed or they find a way to keep the identity concealed. Let me see. Hold on. Yeah. They done made these allegations and they done hit. Now they done stuck there. And, you know, Beyonce, she gonna stand behind Jay. She gonna stand behind Jay. And they saying this happened in 2000. They saying this happened in 2000. But it really put a stain on his name, though. I ain't even gonna lie. That put a stain on his name. But in a situation like this, you gotta stand up for yourself. And you gotta fight back hard. Because they got 150 people that's suing Diddy with the same attorney, and now they've included Jay in it. And I'm wondering, do y'all think it's gonna be more lawsuits to come? Because it could be more lawsuits to come. Let me see. Hold up. Yeah.
Her identity. The woman accuses Jay-Z and Sean Diddy Combs of raping her in the year 2000 when she was 13. Jay-Z says this allegation is part of an extortion attempt. He says the woman's lawyer was trying to blackmail him into paying her a settlement before the allegations went public. The woman's lawyer says Jay-Z's accusation is stupid and laughable. Jay-Z's attorney is seeking a hearing for the accuser to reveal herself.
Areva Martin is a civil rights attorney, author, and radio talk show host. She joins us now to talk about this. Areva, thanks for being with us.
Morning.
We saw the latest development yesterday that Jay-Z's lawyer wants the woman who accused him of sexual assault to reveal her identity. What does the law say when you have a minor? This woman was abused when she was a minor, age 13. Now, all these years later, can they force the woman to reveal her identity?
Yeah, it's an open question. Different jurisdictions take a different approach to this question. We've seen several high-profile celebrities go into court and ask a judge to force a plaintiff, a victim, an alleged victim of rape or sexual assault, to reveal herself so that that individual can, in their words, mount a full defense against the allegations. It's not clear what the court in this case will do, but it's kind of ironic that Jay-Z is asking that the identity of the alleged victim be revealed, because before this lawsuit became public, or because before the amendment was made by plaintiff's attorney, Jay-Z himself filed an anonymous lawsuit alleging that he was being extorted by the plaintiff and her attorney. And it wasn't revealed until recently that the person filing that lawsuit was actually Jay-Z. So filing anonymously is not new. It's something that we see very frequently in these cases. But again, in terms of what the court is going to do, that's an open question.
And I realize this is a civil situation at this point, but if there's no video, isn't it one person's word against another person's word? And how strong is that after 24 years?
Well, it remains to be seen what other evidence may exist. It's not clear if there is or isn't a video, but there's also the question of witnesses. One of the reasons Jay-Z's attorney says that he wants this individual's identity revealed is because he wants to be able to identify potential witnesses. This victim says that she was raped after an MTV party in 2000. So the question is, who else might have been at the residence where this alleged rape occurred? Who else may have knowledge about this alleged sexual assault? So it's unclear at this point what kinds of corroborating evidence may exist to support her claims, or those which may exist to support Jay-Z's vehement denial of these accusations.
And wouldn't the statute of limitations have expired for there to be any criminal investigation at this point?
Again, we've seen certain states, and New York being one of them, have opened up their statute of limitations for these types of claims, not just for civil claims, which is why these types of cases are being filed in civil suits, but also some statutes have been amended in different states to allow for criminal investigations and criminal prosecutions. Not clear if this particular claim falls outside of the applicable statute of limitations. And again, Jay-Z mentioned that in his response to the accusation, saying, look, what's described in this complaint is so heinous, it's so despicable, that if indeed it did happen, the person responsible should be held criminally accountable, not just being forced to come into courts and face civil claims such as the ones in the plaintiff's lawsuit.
What does this mean? You know, in a lot of these cases, we see celebrity A, none of them ever are named publicly. Does that mean that some of these other names in all of these lawsuits that have been filed might be revealed?
Well, what we know from this attorney, Tony Busby, this Houston-based attorney that has filed this case and filed the amendment, he said that he had over 100 individuals that he was going to file lawsuits on who were going to allege sexual assault or some kind of sexual misconduct on the part of Sean Diddy Combs, and that in addition to naming Sean Combs as a defendant, he would be identifying other high-profile celebrities. And Jay-Z is the first of the high-profile celebrities mentioned in a lawsuit involving Sean Combs. So I would not be surprised if we didn't see other lawsuits filed by this law firm, and perhaps even other law firms identifying other celebrities. What we know about the parties that Sean Combs gave during this time period is that they were often replete with high-profile music industry folks as well as TV and film celebrities. So I think this is the beginning, not the end, of the era where we will see lawsuits naming high-profile celebrities.
Areva Martin, thanks so much for joining us. You can hear Areva every day from 2 to 4 on Areva Martin in real time, streaming live on KBLA.com, or find her podcasts everywhere you find podcasts.
Jay fighting back though. And man, they said that this was gonna come to light. They said that this was gonna come to light. And I need to see more proof, me personally. to even consider, to even really think deep into this. Because we all know people can make an accusation against you, file a charge against you, and it could be false. So it must be some type of proof that we haven't seen, and we might see it later. But that definitely has to be seen before we can come and jump to conclusions. You know, even though birds of a feather flock together, and, you know, Diddy was running with Jay-Z and Jay was running with Diddy, we still got to see proof. We can't just go on what's been said in the media. But I told y'all before that the artists are puppets. And when they're done with the puppets, they throw them away, you know? We think that coming through the music industry gives us a certain level of power that can't be taken from you, because everybody loves music. You don't have no power. You have no power. It's like they temporarily give you a certain power, and it's towards other people. But they have a way of turning people against you. And when they turn people against you, it's a whole different ball game. You have no power. The money you have accumulated doesn't hold the same value. Your money, not everybody in the world, but your money loses value when these type of things happen. Straight up. And I don't know, man. I don't know. I haven't seen any evidence that makes me say Jay doesn't have a shot. The evidence we see against P. Diddy is just a whole bunch of people saying the same thing. So it looks kind of rocky for P. Diddy, but in Jay-Z's situation, it looks like you can see the light. And that's my opinion on that. It looked like you can see the light because whoever filed the lawsuit that they haven't revealed yet, she filed the lawsuit and she didn't include Jay-Z's name in the lawsuit from the beginning. She amended the lawsuit and added his name to the lawsuit 2 months later. Why? Because the shakedown didn't work. Excuse me. The shakedown didn't work. Jay-Z didn't go for it. And he didn't agree to sitting down in a mediation with whoever this person is. And I would agree with it. You don't sit down with somebody, especially if you know you didn't do something, so that they can have something to use against you. You got to understand, these tactics are to put you in a deeper situation. Even if you're not guilty, whatever you sit down and talk to somebody in the mediation about, even if they try to say it's confidential, somehow they tend to get this information out to the public. Just like these interrogation videos and other things that just get put out to the public. And I guarantee you, if Jay-Z would have took up a mediation meeting with whoever this is, it would have got out to the public. We didn't hear nothing about the mediation meeting because he didn't accept it. And he sent back with a lawsuit. That was his counter back to them trying to sit down for mediation. He came with the lawsuit. And we didn't hear nothing about it then. But once they proceeded to file the lawsuit, now we hear everything about Tony Busby sending Jay-Z demand letters, Jay-Z responding with legal action. And this is the game, man. When you're associated with people and you're in a position of power, you got to be mindful. Somebody might turn on you. You got to be mindful. People sit around you and gather information on you just to flip on you. All the people that was connected to Diddy, right? They using all the people against him. Anybody that's ever worked for him, and that's deep. People you employed will tear you all the way to the ground. And you know, this situation with Diddy though, he been taking advantage of people for so long. Everybody turned on him. And they done bought Jay in it. Like, from 2000. So you mean to tell me from 2000 to 2024, y'all don't have anything else against him? There's nothing else that we can review and look at to see if this is a pattern of behavior? Nah. Like, I can't just go for anything. We need to see some evidence. And you can file a lawsuit, but the evidence is going to come out eventually. And I'm sure, you know, Jay can't wait to put it out there and say what they're saying. Because this is this man's life on the line. Yeah. And sheesh. Yeah. They done put the NFL star's girlfriend, NHL. Let's see what we got here.
Particularly given the graphic and disturbing allegations in this case. While the court does not take plaintiffs' concerns lightly, the court cannot rely on generalized, uncorroborated claims that disclosure would harm plaintiff to justify her anonymity. Without more specific support, plaintiff fails to overcome the prejudice to defendants and public interest factors implied here. The judge points out that other sexual assault accusers in high-profile cases of Kevin Spacey and Harvey Weinstein were required to identify themselves. According to this ruling, there are several reasons that the plaintiff, that's Jane Doe, should remain anonymous. If the case was highly sensitive and personal, if the identification of her risks mental or physical harm for both her or others, if plaintiff, meaning Jane Doe, could be harmed when the name is revealed, whether the defendant, in this case P. Diddy, is prejudiced by allowing plaintiff to release the name, if the name had already been kept anonymous, if the case is of public interest, and if there are alternate means of protecting confidentiality. In this ruling, the judge breaks down all these factors. The doc reads, quote, "This case concerns highly sensitive and personal matters, including allegations that defendants trafficked, drugged, and gang-raped Doe. Although plaintiff is now an adult, she was a minor when the alleged incidents occurred, making the case particularly sensitive. Regarding Factor 7, plaintiff maintains, and defendants do not dispute, that other than informing defendants of her identity, Doe has not publicly revealed her identity related to these allegations." So that sounds like a win for Cain or Jane Doe at the time, but these next points laid out aren't as big of wins. According to the filing, plaintiff, meaning Jane Doe or Anna Cain, has not identified any current vulnerabilities warranting anonymity. The defendants have identified prejudice. Public factors weigh in favor of disclosure. Alternate mechanisms for protecting confidentiality exist, and a balance of factors weighs against anonymity. The next part reads, quote, "Although this case involves highly sensitive allegations and Doe has not publicly revealed her identity, all other factors weigh against plaintiff's motion should this case survive defendant's dispositive motions. She has failed to demonstrate particularized harm or current vulnerabilities. Defendants have demonstrated prejudice they would suffer. The public interest factors weigh in favor of disclosure, and there are at least some measures that could be implemented to protect sensitive information exchanged during discovery." For the foregoing reasons, the court denies plaintiff's motion to proceed anonymously, but stays the effect of this order until after the court decides the pending motion for judgment on the pleadings. So even though this ruling had been made, the plaintiff's name remained Jane Doe on the lawsuit until a new ruling last week. This court doc mainly responds to the defense's claim that Anna Cain's allegations are time-barred and that corporate defendants listed are not liable. But at the very end, the judge sneaks in this ruling, quote, "Plaintiff is also now directed to comply with the court's earlier ruling, ECF number 49, finding that she may no longer proceed anonymously." And that's why we now know Anna Cain's name. Before all this, Cain was mainly known as the ex-wife of NHL player Evander Kane. But she's got a following of her own, including on Instagram, where she boasts more than 77,000 followers. In the wake of her name being revealed, Cain made a statement through her attorney, reading in part, quote, "I'd hoped to use a pseudonym in pursuing justice for what happened to me as a teenager. Defendants' demands that I use my name was an attempt to intimidate me, but I am not intimidated. I'm prepared to proceed and hold accountable those who've harmed me." So what does all this mean for Anna Cain and the other accusers who are so far anonymous? So we're turning now to former federal prosecutor Nima Rahmani. Nima, thank you so much for coming on. It's always great when we get to talk to you.
Oh, Sierra, thanks for having me as always. Big news today.
This is big news today. We're talking about Jane Doe. We finally now know her identity as Anna Cain. What do you think right from the jump? Do you think this is the right call of the court to rule that she has to reveal her name publicly?
Well, it's a yes and no. I'm used to state law, and under state law in states like California, victims of sexual abuse, especially sexual abuse as a minor, can remain anonymous. But we're in federal court, and there is no corresponding rule of civil procedure. This is one of those cases where laws in different states, or even within a state, between state and federal court, can differ. And under the federal rule of civil procedure 10, there's a presumption that the parties are not going to be anonymous.
So why is that, do you think, that the court ruled in this way? I can understand from her perspective why she wanted to keep her name out of the news, but do you think it was a justifiable ruling?
I think it is. Obviously, there's no real clear answer here. Judges have a lot of discretion because, again, it's not like there's a hard and fast rule where if you're a victim of sexual assault, if you're a victim of sexual abuse, you get to remain anonymous like certain states have. So it's up to the judge, and he or she needs to weigh different factors. And one of them is there any prejudice to the defendant? Does it make it more difficult for him to defend his case not knowing who it is? Is there potential harm to the plaintiff or the victim who wants to remain anonymous? What about the sensitive nature of the allegation? So the judge balanced them here and ultimately ruled that upon balancing, actually favors Combs, and that's why she had to really unmask herself and identify herself in the pleadings.
Unmask is an interesting word to use because we have been talking, you and I
mean, they definitely should reveal who a victim is. If you're a real victim, you need to be revealed because that just gives room for people to want to be anonymous and make false claims. So hiding behind an anonymous person should definitely be out the question. And like you said, in federal proceedings, they can prove the reason why this person needs to be revealed. And especially if it's not going to be fair playing ground to the defendant.
Many others about Jane Doe for about a year at this point. We feel like we know her case inside and out, but now this just blows it out of the water. It's a person now, you know, we have a name. We can kind of trace back the timeline of her life. How does that change things for Anna Cain now that her name is public?
Well, it does potentially change things and change things for other victims as well. So there is a strategic benefit here because maybe people that don't want their identity revealed, maybe they'll be a little bit hesitant to file a lawsuit or accuse someone like Combs if they have to identify themselves. Obviously, you know, there are people watching. Some of them believe that, you know, she was assaulted and what she's doing is righteous. And I'm sure there are people watching who disagree. And, when people are identified in a very public lawsuit, which this is, I wouldn't be surprised if she gets some hate comments or folks who don't believe her. So it may be an impediment. I certainly believe victims of abuse, but it may give some of them pause when deciding whether to file a lawsuit or not.
That's interesting, talking about future lawsuits that could be filed against P. Diddy or whoever else it may be. But there already are some John and Jane Does out there who filed suit. They just haven't made their name public as of yet. So what do you think this ruling about Anna Cain means for those suits? Do you think they will have to reveal their names?
Not necessarily. Really, this is a judge-specific ruling. Now, with respect to this judge, absolutely. I would advise my clients, and I represent victims of sexual abuse and assault all the time. I'd say, if we draw this judge, there is a very real possibility that you're going to have to identify yourself. Do you still want to move forward? I have clients all the time that tell me, I'm scared, I'm worried about myself, about my family, people online. I don't want to do this unless I can remain anonymous. So it is an important factor. And I think lawyers are going to have to start advising their clients, hey, if we draw the wrong judge in federal court, you may have to identify yourself and you still want to move forward. But with respect to different judges, it doesn't matter. There's no precedential impact. One judge doesn't have to follow another judge, of course, unless it's a higher court, which this isn't.
It's interesting about this case, too. You pointed out Jane Doe was only 17 when these allegations occurred. So obviously she's underage at that point. But you mentioned there's no statute federally if the person is underage to remain anonymous. So do you think that is going to affect the other cases as well? Because we do have some that allege P. Diddy abused them. They're only 9 years old, 13 years old. Now, if there's no federal statute about that, that's one thing, but also it's a really young, tender age. So does that play into all of it?
That's something the judge may take into consideration. Obviously, we're talking about allegations that are more than 2 decades old with respect to Anna Cain and with respect to the 13-year-old. So the question is, is a judge going to take that into consideration? Hey, you were 9, you were 13, you weren't 17. Now, obviously, Anna Cain was just in high school at the time. She was just in 11th grade when all this allegedly happened. So I still think that she's a minor. So will a judge potentially draw a distinction? I don't know. I think that's going to really depend on the judge and what their views are in terms of transparency and public access in these types of cases.
We're talking so much about the civil side of things right now because if we recall 1 year ago, there were no charges filed against P. Diddy. It was all speculation and it was civil suits. So this kind of paved the way for those criminal charges. So I'm wondering, is it possible Jane Doe, now we know her name as Anna Cain, if she could be called to testify or be involved in P. Diddy's criminal case?
It's certainly possible. And obviously, there's a higher standard in a criminal case, and criminal prosecutors tend to be a little bit more conservative. They're not going to take a kitchen sink approach and charge the more than 100 victims who will probably file civil lawsuits in this case. Obviously, dozens of them have already. They're going to pick and choose the ones that they think are the strongest witnesses and victims.
P. Diddy held it on people for years, and it's coming back on him. I can't say that, he sexually assaulted anyone. But what I can say is, from all the stories from the people saying how he was jerking them for their record deals and their money, it's coming back on him hard. You put that kind of energy out in the universe, it's going to come back because you're dealing with other people. And when you're dealing with other people, stuff like this can happen. And all he can do is fight for his life. Honestly, all he can do is just fight for his life. This should show the world, though, no matter how much money you got, you ain't safe. These dudes think because you get a whole bunch of money, you safe. Money has no value as it did years ago. And what I mean by that is now things are more expensive, but you can't buy your way out of the things like you used to. Sometimes you might can slip through the cracks. It depends on the situation, the circumstances. But in other situations, money doesn't have the value that it did. Whereas though you can buy your way out of things. Now they see how the system is cracking down on certain things, especially with the people with money that would normally buy their way out the situation, pay somebody, get it taken care of. It doesn't hold that same value. You can't just buy your way out of a situation now. You can't do it. You used to. But now it has to line up. You know, it has to be some mistakes along the process. It has to be some situations that occurred for you to be able to buy your way out of a situation. And in this situation, they keeping Diddy in jail to make sure that he doesn't have a voice outside. And I really think when he was being targeted from the jump, he should have continued to stay quiet. He started flashing around his mansion. Oh, I'm here. I ain't going nowhere. Not understanding that they had a plan to get you out the way. That was the plan. And it worked. They pushed you through every platform to make sure that the people look at you a certain way. The jury has been poisoned. And they're trying to say that when he did the birthday celebration on the phone, that he was trying to poison the jury. Well, the jury's already been poisoned by the news. The news has made Diddy look the way they want him to look to the world. And the world has grasped that. People have took that in. People are really looking at it as what the news said, that's what Diddy did. They're not even giving him a fair shot at the trial. The trial has already been held, and it's been held out here. They said he did it. I don't see how he's able to change the public's mind. I can't see it. I can't see it at all. So what the hell? Same records. Situations can get sticky. Yeah, situation can get sticky. And this is how Diddy's gonna see that nobody really has love for him. We don't understand these things, right? We don't understand these things, but we have to watch from other people's experience to understand that people really don't have love for you. Diddy thought all these people loved him because he was P. Diddy. Nah, they don't love you. They just love what you was providing, as in the entertainment that you provided. But now we see who's in his corner. His kids are in his corner at this current time. But we don't know if the feds are going to charge his kids with anything and then force them to go against him. Because we all know if you haven't been through that type of situation in that fire, most people are telling. I'm going to just be straight real. If you haven't been through that, most people are going to tell and they're not going to think about it. So in that situation, if they charge his kids or something, they going to tell. And that can happen. To make their case stronger against you, they go after your family and charge your family. And make sure that they got some evidence that's going to be really connected to you, because somebody in your family is testifying on you. And that's why I say, keep people away from you. When you got people around you, you have to really worry about if somebody else is going to turn them against you. And I see it happening with Diddy. I see it happening. Jay-Z better stay out the country, because as soon as he come back roaming around the country, they might have a case waiting for him. They done already dropped the civil case on him. So he better stay out the country, man. The game. The game, man. The game. The game. And these are the people we looked at as the moguls, top of the game, the people that people look up to. And rap looks sad right now. I ain't even gonna hold you. Rap looks straight sad. Is it worth going out there and making a hit right now? We watching these jokers get picked off left and right. Y'all see that now? We watching these jokers get picked off left and right. They done tarnished Jay-Z's legacy, saying he was messing with a 13-year-old girl in 2000, man. Damn. That's a rough one. It's rough. I tell you, you can't trust nobody. If you think people are your friends, you think people riding with you, wait till a serious situation. And all they want to keep talking about now is every time Jay and Diddy was out, when they was hanging out together, they want to make sure that they reference that. The game.
Jay-Z revealed as an accused rapist in a civil lawsuit initially filed against Sean Diddy Combs. The two stars, now accused of raping a 13-year-old girl at an after-party decades ago. I have 7 shocking details from the suit and what Jay-Z, Combs, and the accuser's lawyer are all saying about it. Welcome to Crime Fix. I'm Anjanette Levy. Jay-Z, of course, is one of the biggest names in rap music, and he has been a longtime friend and associate of Sean Diddy Combs. Now he's being revealed as the name behind Celebrity A in a lawsuit filed by a Jane Doe from Alabama, who claims that Combs and now Jay-Z raped her in the year 2000. And in a bit, I'm going to tell you what both Jay-Z and Sean Combs are saying about this lawsuit, so stay tuned for that. Combs is currently in federal custody, accused of racketeering and sex trafficking, and he's pleaded not guilty to those charges. The sex trafficking charge filed against Combs relates to allegations made by his ex, Cassie Ventura, that he forced her to take part in freak-offs, days-long sex acts with male sex workers. Cassie had originally filed a civil lawsuit against Combs in November of 2023. That suit, of course, was settled in record time within a day. Before that, Combs' lawyers say that Cassie's lawyers had made an offer to them that they could buy the rights to a book she was writing for $30 million in exchange for it never seeing the light of day. Cassie's lawsuit and the subsequent settlement.
Diddy should have never settled. Now, we see it didn't benefit him to settle. It just made it look like he's guilty. He should have never settled, man.
It seemed to open the floodgates for other women to file civil lawsuits against Combs. More than a dozen have been filed, including one by a Jane Doe in October. At the time the suit was filed, Combs was the main defendant, and two other celebrities were listed as Celebrity A and Celebrity B. Celebrity A was listed as a man and Celebrity B, a woman. Now attorney Tony Buzbee, after some legal back and forth with a demand letter and dueling lawsuits, says Celebrity A is Jay-Z, whose legal name is Sean Carter. The suit begins. Defendant Sean Combs, a.k.a. P. Diddy, a.k.a. Puff Daddy, a.k.a. Diddy, a.k.a. PD, a.k.a. Love, along with his longtime friend and collaborator Sean Carter, a.k.a. Jay-Z, drugged and raped a 13-year-old girl at an after-party following the 2000 Video Music Awards. Another celebrity stood by and watched as Combs and Carter took turns assaulting the minor. Many others were present at the after-party, but did nothing to stop the assault. Combs has been allowed for years to conduct himself in this manner without any consequences. The plaintiff says she was 13 at the time in January of 2000 when she said she went to the MTV Video Music Awards at Radio City Music Hall. She didn't have a ticket, so she approached limo drivers who were parked outside hoping to get in. The lawsuit says one of the limousine drivers she spoke to claimed to work for defendant Combs. The driver told her that Combs liked younger girls and said that she fit what Diddy was looking for. And while not allowing her into the awards, the driver invited her to an after party. The driver stated,
Yeah, we know all that. Let's see what else we got going on here.
exposes his barrage of lawsuits against Mr. Combs for what they are: shameless publicity stunts designed to extract payments from celebrities who fear having lies spread about them, just as lies have been spread about Mr. Combs. As his legal team has said before, Mr. Combs has full confidence in facts and the integrity of the judicial process. In court, the truth will prevail that Mr. Combs never sexually assaulted or trafficked anyone, man or woman, adult or minor. And Jay-Z posted a lengthy statement on X calling the allegations heinous. My lawyer received a blackmail attempt called a demand letter from a lawyer named Tony Buzbee. What he had calculated was the nature of these allegations and the public scrutiny would make me want to settle. No, sir, it had the opposite effect. It made me want to expose you for the fraud you are in a very public fashion. So no, I will not give you one red penny, in all caps. These allegations are so heinous in nature that I implore you to file a criminal complaint, not a civil one. Whomever would commit such a crime against a minor should be locked away. Would you not agree? These alleged victims would deserve real justice if that were the case. This lawyer, who I have done a bit of research on, seems to have a pattern of these type of theatrics. I have no idea how you have come to be such a deplorable human, Mr. Buzbee, but I promise you I have seen your kind many times over. I'm more than prepared to deal with your type. Jay-Z then talks about his family and the toll this will take on them. My only heartbreak is for my family. My wife and I will have to sit our children down, one of whom is at the age where her friends will surely see the press and ask questions about the nature of these claims and explain the cruelty and greed of people. I mourn yet another loss of innocence. Children should not have to endure such at their young age. It is unfair to have to try to understand inexplicable degrees of malice meant to destroy families and human spirit. My heart and support goes out to true victims in the world who have to watch how their life story is dressed in costume for profitability by this ambulance chaser in a cheap suit. You have made a terrible error in judgment, thinking that all celebrities are the same. I'm not from your world. I'm a young man who made it out of the project of Brooklyn. We don't play these types of games. We protect children. You seem to exploit people for personal gain. Only your network of conspiracy theorists, fake physics, will believe the idiotic claims you have levied against me that, if not for the seriousness surrounding harm to kids, would be laughable. I look forward to showing you just how different I am.
Now, that was a lengthy statement that Jay made. And it sounded strong. I can't lie. It sounded real strong. He stood behind what he believed. And the lawyer, Tony Busby, does look a little funny with these shakedown letters. If he doesn't have no evidence besides the woman just saying something happened 24 years ago, the lawsuit's going to get thrown out. I'm going to tell you that right now. There's no way that the lawsuit sticks if that's the only thing they have against Jay. Now, we already know Puff has a mountain of people going against him. We ain't heard that with Jay yet, because trust me, I think there's going to be people coming out from every angle now that Jay-Z has been outed to the public for this lawsuit. I think that people are going to come out and people are going to file lawsuits and people are going to have stories now because it's a money grab. Oh, man. These are the things that happen when you are at the top. When you're at the top, everybody wants to take you down. And we don't know if this is true or not true, what they saying about Jay from 2000 now. We ain't heard nothing all the way in between 2000 to 2024. This is the only thing we heard, and they went all the way back 24 years ago. And he was included in the lawsuit 2 months after it was filed. I don't know. But I do know, people like to see the destruction of other people's lives. I'm going to tell you that right now. You can feel me, you can not feel me. But people like to see destruction of other people's lives, especially when they are rich. It's like, yeah, I knew they was going to fall. I knew this. It's the hate of the human. It's a lot of hate in humans because they can't make it to that level. And like people like myself, I'm cool with who I am. So I'm not wishing something happens to someone just because I'm not on their level. Hey, what's going on? What's going on, your mans? What's happening? Yeah. I'm talking about, Jay-Z's situation and Jay being accused of these sick allegations. This is a sick allegation of a 13-year-old, and at that time, I think Jay was 31 then. He was 31 at the time. The person was 13. And they're claiming that Jay, did some sick stuff. But the game, man, I tell you, one thing I know, when you in position, you got to watch. You got to watch the people that are around you. It's always going to be them people. And you hear when they have these lawsuits or anybody talking bad about you, it's always somebody that was around you. It's never nobody you don't know, because now they're not believable at all. But the people that are next to you, they believable. You got to watch who you be around, who you have in your presence. Because they could be the same people that destroy everything you work for. And we all know whatever you accumulate can be taken from you. When they start classifying you with the RICO and involving you, and organizations that commit criminal activity, they want to start taking your stuff. This is the first lawsuit that we've seen come about for Jay. And, you know, in my opinion, I think it's going to be more people that want to bring a lawsuit against him. And it's going to be more people that had a story. Now, we know these guys have been all over the world, in and out the country. So they've dealt with multiple women. We already know celebrities fly women in and out of their states, out countries. They do this. But these are going to be the same people that might be testifying against him. You know, it's going to be some people that might really have some mutual encounters with Jay. But they looking at the money situation and they're going to turn on him. That should hold a lot of weight to the world in court, for real. That these things are money driven. And it's crazy that you can't detect it, so the procedure has to go the way it has to go. It's a dirty game that somebody can allege you did something without proof. It's a dirty game. And you got to defend yourself, fight for your life, lawyer fees, exposure, to try to clear your name. That's heavy. You got to fight for your life to clear your name. And if Jay-Z didn't do the things they're alleging him of, it's messed up that somebody has the ability to torture your name, your legacy, and everything you work for that easy. That's what's messed up. And, you know, whoever it is suing because they want money, so I'm sure they don't have any money, right? Pay attention. They don't have any money, so they just suing so that they can get money. They don't have no money. They're going to say whatever. They're going to say whatever they need to say to make the case go the way they want it to go. And it's messed up though. You can't trust people, man. It's too much trust in people in today's life, knowing how things are. We got trust in all these politicians. We got trust in the president. We got trust in all these people that have a certain position, and they all violate the position. But now it's so common that these things happen. It's like it's nature now. And I'm wondering if they're going to reveal who this person is. This is what I say. I really think they need to reveal who the person is, who the people are. Everybody needs to be revealed, man. Whoever the names that were on the list of the people that supposedly went to the parties and are on camera, everything needs to be revealed. It's not fair that they are picking and choosing who they want to let out. Every name should have came out at the same time. Every one of them. Let us decide who we feel is credible and not credible. But we see now they put all the focus on Puff. They putting focus on Jay now. Who's next? They got Ray J acting as if he's defending Diddy. I really think Ray J gonna be involved in these lawsuits. Something's gonna come out. Some accusations about Ray J is coming out too. Anybody that's speaking and trying to justify, it's gonna be a lawsuit coming out about him. This is my opinion. You see all the people that's quiet. They hoping that their name don't come out. Because we already know these guys that have money, they have a secret society. Jay said it. It's a secret society. All we ask is trust. It's a secret society over there. And I know, you know, it might have been some backdoor things going on. But when they start saying the underage girl thing, that's when it's like we really got to see proof. You can't just say something like that and not provide us proof, in my opinion. And these accusations is from 24 years ago, and we haven't heard anything in between. We did hear that, you know, Jay-Z was next. Oh, Jay-Z is coming. They're going to get him too. We did hear that. But we haven't seen any proof, though. There needs to be something that corroborates what the witness is saying, the victim is saying. Not just an amended lawsuit. We got to pay attention to that. It's certain things that we really need to, as the people, make sure that we pay attention to. Why was the name added 2 months after the lawsuit was filed? Why was that? Why did that happen? You know why? Because it was more money for Busby. Think about that. If I got Puff and Jay on the line, the value goes up. The price goes up. The bag goes up. But we ain't paying attention to that. The bag goes up. If I add Jay to this, the bag goes up. Because what they're alleging is totally criminal. Why isn't this just in a criminal court? Because it's always about money. It's never about justice. It's always about money. You can pay attention to how they used all of these resources and how they put so much focus on putting the information out on the shooter that killed the CEO of United Healthcare. They had an APB. They put his picture out over and over. It was talked about multiple sources. And that's what they do when they want to stick something in our head. I really want y'all to pay attention to that. When they want to stick something inside of our head, they just repeat it over and over again. That's it. They continue to tell us, have sources tell us, right? And now we believe it. Now it's real. But they're not doing that about the things that they should, because they want those things to go on. If you think about that, right? These communities that are destroyed daily, if they were uplifted and some positive things going on, that wouldn't be no money for them. It's money over there. Even though we destroying each other, it's business for them over there. We not paying attention to that, man. These the games that they play.
And lawyer Tony Busby, who filed this suit in the first place, is firing back also on X. Regarding the Jay-Z case and his efforts to silence my clients, Mr. Carter previously denied being the one who sued me and my firm. He filed his frivolous case under a pseudonym. What he fails to say in his recent statement is my firm sent his lawyer a demand letter on behalf of an alleged victim, and that victim never demanded a penny from him. Instead, she sought only a confidential mediation. Since I sent the letter on her behalf, Mr. Carter has not only sued me, but he has tried to bully and harass me and this plaintiff. His conduct has had the opposite impact. She is emboldened. I'm very proud of her resolve. As far as the allegations in the complaint filed, we will let the filing speak for itself and will litigate the facts in court. not in the media. I want to bring in Nima Rahmani. He is an entertainment attorney, and he's been following the whole Sean Combs ordeal very closely. So, Nima.
All right, I heard enough from Nemo, Mamani, whatever. We heard enough from him. I don't know, man. I don't know. These allegations are allegations, and we need facts, man. We need facts. But what I know about the world is when they put something about you in the news, people already say you're guilty. Anything the news says, they automatically say you're guilty. You feel me? Anything that comes in the news, they automatically say you're guilty. It's like you don't even have the same shot. Ah, man, the people form an opinion on you, and that's what it is, man. Honestly, the people form an opinion on you, and that's what it is, man. So I don't know how this situation is going to turn out for Jay, but I'm sure Jay going to war. I ain't even gonna lie. So they said, let me see. Jay went on Twitter. Jay went on Twitter and made that statement. It get crazy, man. They'll destroy your character, I tell you that. You see, they did the same thing with Michael Jackson. Destroy your character. Alright, come on, man. But like they said with those other celebrities about their names of the victims being exposed, like they did it for them. So we gonna see. Everybody's name needs to be out there, man. People try to hide behind certain things with ill intent to gain. Honestly. They hide behind certain things with ill intent. Yes, they do. It's the game, though. And, you know, I appreciate everybody that watches the channel. If you haven't already subscribed to the channel, hit that subscribe button. Hit that like button. And share this video. Go check the merch out. sbgbtv.com. I appreciate it. And, you know, it's your boy DZ, man. I appreciate y'all. I'm working. And y'all already know. It's not about the setback. It's about the get back. Nah.